Welcome back from the lunch break, and we will continue with our proceedings for the day and get to the final session of the public hearings of the TRRC.
Chairman Kabe Mobe Kontona Itung Abaita Jama Belako Metembo Mento Silang Nata Liro Sita Tokomon Fata Kulu Bandulareto o Kamala Abe Kontondroni TRRC Toya Laba Confident La Mobe ma Memeni Onko Ibulole Ba Kono Bang Idabe do Kotole Ba Keta Nyonya Ndi Nyama Ibe Dawo Nandi Mfanang Abe Lafla Nyinkamwe Futa Mobe
Chairman Mune Munge Nuyu Askan wi len xamal ne nak fim nek ni excellent ci pandawga ci jotaay bi nga xamne fofu lañ tollu ni tay
musidɓe am fulɓe kiyaman ko woni ko wiide ɗo ko ɗum woni ligge TRRC ɗen kan wonni min hewti jonde nden ka sakkitorum ɗo tawi mo yetta fof mo andandama wondema junngo ma naati e golle TRRC ɗen wallugol TRRC ha yiye golle ɗen yaara yeeso mo yetta fof mo jarnama
ko palon ko jola jumre saful ciaman on ada nyanande on bade saf bu ko nak tu na tentu mate ko jaar burka bolli man lum tongu me kane jaatu bodun ka banak jaatu dot bot me bane nyaam bal alawe na tentu bu kana kanu manyi ko kulu dum nyenoli bu ko jok man burka banolu sof mi o kambo man mambo meno e ko ban man funan ware mu bambo jaata a baraka on ba saferu.
We may recruit somebody to do the Rahule part of it. But let me just show you or tell you what the scenario is like. This is not likely to be more than 40 minutes or so of our exercise.
Ko barbitum asekeno fo mo nyinimba membe sarkule kam fola ko barbitum nyin e kulo me alonko asekate tambira minute tanano la me alonko abe kala do ko kono kuleti fanan na be ngoto jang
mune li nak ngi xamal nit ñi ne jotaay la bo xamne du guddal lol du wessu sax ñen fukki minute mu bokk ci li nga xamne nak ci suñ liggéey yi la bokk
wi ko woni ko wiide o wi o sikkunon kadi ben fonno dabbude neddo kadi ndar nantino ele musibbe men sarankulle ben kono haade ha joni kadi mo faamina yimbe be wonde ma jonde nde wonde do den o sikkane yawta minitaji cappanne nay hara en saakike
on barege nani tike panu nges anatume ke elebe di ku kanga tiku fusera hulle bare hande be jaat on bayi sinema te ko kala ka kan lako nyam mom le ku wuju si minute kanko gaba
we will I will deliver a set of prepared remarks from the chair.
Be kuma kan lu bankela me ya lonko wonum kuma kan prendi ngoleti men be bola commission fon la siranti wala karola ka futandi jama muluma
mune dina fi garal nak ay kaddu yo xamne mu ngi bayeko ci mom mi ci bopam mi nga xamne mo nek ci bopi togo bi ci commission bi fi
wi ha joni hande ga won don do e o jonira e kongol ngol andandal immordo e dow yamirore makko kanko hore jonde den te dum woni o faala halande jama on
nane o pana sen furima fanu magnimi furima fakiliaf du o fotumi prouvé ani fana tejum ko teyati fuji jabo fe.
It will be followed by remarks from the commissioners, each one.
Neo botala commissioner lumenu bijang kiliwo kilim fanambe kumalu sotolale ibe mem banke la jang
buñ baye ko ci lolu nak bu ko defé commissioner yi fi tew kenn ku ci nek dina fi garal kaddom
si don feƴƴi commissioner ben kadi kala e mabbe hebudo ko faala haalde e nder haala kan ino way e haalde en kongol makko e seeda
puto dia ko commissioner ba commissioner antate apajja furim be sen be kasanken o popona sen
and that will be followed by remarks from our legal team.
No batala utumolem na alfal men besirin lu ala karola jang men yalon ko lem consulti men ka nyinin karoke ulfanal be la kuma kangul folale
bu ko defé nak ñi nga xamné ñoy council bi ñi nga xamné ñoo nek ci bunti loi bi ñoom tamit dinañ fi garal seeni cadeau
ay si don feƴƴi kadi du woni jogibe sengo loi on du woni council en be andara kambe woni landade nder jonde den do ben kadi si be jogi ko be haala ben kadi jondete be haala hen kongol seeda
putoja kambi ka panakati loya ko ka kenge minang onja de fuja kala ka de fuja da fullo fe ko popan ko seni man popop ko sanken on ko to be seni man kana ko jam.
And that will be then followed by the unit that makes us all operate without their coordination and guidance, and we would not be able to do our work as different units, and that's the secretariat.
Batala office of Fongo Memmarata Jang Du Kulu Kenya la Menia Lonko Ning itel temnum abe koleala bakele purkantela du ko nyin tamandi dinkira nyinto jang ulfanal bela kuma kan ulfalale katu wolem dinkirati me yalon ko wolem office ba fonti mem martati arat si du kulu ning kulu Kenya la dinkiratu jang
mune buñ ci bayé ko nak ñi nga xamné ñom bu doonul ñom liggéey bi nga xamné moy dox Trrc fi du mëna dox ñom ñoy ñi nga xamné dal ñoo yoré wali doxine liggéey kat yi nga xamné ñoo nekk fi Trrc mu di secrétariat bi dinañ fi garal kaddu
wi si feƴƴi ɗon kadi konngol ɓe jonnengol office wiyeteɗo secrétarial kamɓe kadi si wonano kamɓe ligge Trrc ɗen sattayno ko kamɓe jogui ligge Trrc de fof ko yahata ɗo konko feƴƴata kan dengat hokko ɗo kamɓe kadi ɓe jonnete si ɓe jogui koɓe faala haalde kamɓe kadi ɓe haala
putoja ko welangi filmete ko sen secretary filmete fati secretary buko ko kame bukana kanu manmi broka beti aras tu mam bu jor minutu buko ko ko mi kanja le buko broka bolele le bu ngole bu jol pantini fam fam nya banya no seni mam bu ko rek forma fam ko warem ko sembu jama man kana ko jam.
But before we get to that, I will call on the legal counsel to complete one procedural matter that we wanted them to finish when the last witness finished his testimony.
Darija nimbe du naw kono aba kango di la legal counsel la wala lead counsel ti pour asikolu to labang me ya lonko wala be dending mo labang la men labanta CDR la jang kudu tuta ko me ya lonko lead counsel nyanta wala to labanna bitunga be kango di la wala pour wo yodo ko
mune bala mo garal kaddom nak dina jox kaddu gi ki nga xamne mo jité lawyer fi mu di lead counsel bi mu matal lo xamne waron nañ ko sotal ci ki nga xamne moy sédé bi fi mujjé ñew mu sokko jox kaddu gi
o wi kono do e dum mu fala jonnude haala kan woni lead counsel ko andanda wonde kanko kadi kanko landoto sédé ben sibe ari Trrc do woni o sédé sakkitido haalde do ko haali kon do gelande ma haali do wodi ko andanda ma wonde hino foto natinede e nder haala makko kan pour o wawa nadinde dum e nder haala kan wawa wonde e sédé e nder haala makko kan mo wawi wadde
nane bala ton wana langin firma ka sen counsel on kono mi lead counsel akama counsel an mani mo akengim dire ku sédé nya asida am no mani mi wala bagum ka sankan ak jaat babaji wa fa no manje wore alla bang ne di ka sédé ra ko la barel kant nya wona wange ma ringin man ku nap di do di ko sédé ko la kana semmi dire jaat fu naka fe jaat.
Counsel, you have the floor, please.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, for giving me the opportunity to finalize on the presentation of the evidence. You would recall, Mr. Chair, that we have received a list from witness Sehu Jallo.
Inumbara bake chairman bitum mbe numbara la wakanka itandiko yesilo dinna pour ngana kulu be kum fame ya lonko wolle keta sede la bangola dia moti jangay kuma kan lu menu fo ni hila hakilo bakan ay tolle futandim ma jang me ya lonko wulmu molle toluti atala sede yaro kono ay menu fintindi bitum inumbara bake pour be mu kula bangoti ngaw tentendi ka to la bang.
jërëjëf chairman lead counsel mu ne jërëjëf chairman ci li nga ma jox kàddu gi pour ma sottal nag li nga xam ne moo aju ci mbiri seede bi nga xam ne moo fi mujjee teew boo ko fàttale ko nag am na ay tur yoo xam ne joxe woon na ko fii yooyu laa bëgg a feeñal
o jarama kiyaman kono si tawa manditare seede on ɗo ko wattumo jonneno ɗo o seede sakkitiro momen sakkitori ɗo ko wattumo jonneno seede yagal makko ngal o haalino ɗo inde yimɓe ɓe andandama wondema ɓe bolinano ko kante haala ko ɗum o faala pour o wawa natinde ɗum kante haala
abarka chairman man wona nya bu jafu bare nan kanja panu wolo aseda lan ka seede ka tate ya na baba ju res wana senetate woni bajñade kanyina kumbum woni mange mbuno mambil rek res ndaw kayta ka kiliak mi ngoni ruko di kasanke nak.
Mr. Chair, the list Sehu Jallow called it the list of enemies, Jammeh's list of enemies, or list of Jammeh's enemies, or whatever. But the legal team called it Jammeh's spiritual hit list.
Inumbara bake chairman sedo yenyin tolu menu diteng ako nyillo moluti men yalonko wollemu jamme jawoluti itolu bebe kensundi ndamen walla mo safono jamme ye mennu muta jawoluti wolle tolu be kensundi woto andu molle me yalonko jamme atela miraroto ako nye abe nyille kelendi la ni moria silola pour mendiata te woyetama walla koto
tur yi nga xam ne moom la fi seede bi joxe nag seede bi nim tuddee tur yooyu nga xam ne moom lañ fi joxe moo di ñooñu ñëpp ñoo di ay nooni jàmme waaye nag ñoom ñi nga xam ne ñoo di looya yi ñoom niñ ko tuddee moo di ay limi tur lañ yoo xam ne ñooñu ñoom la jàmme lim pour yóbbu leen ci ñi nga xam ne ñoo di ay sëriñam
wi kono a jarama ɓe indele seede on jonni men ɗo kanko e sengo makko o wi ko yimɓe ɓe andanda wona ko ko gañoɓe président wonnoro ɗon ɗum woni Yaya Jammeh kono noon kamɓe sengo maɓɓe ɗum woni kamɓe loyaɓe ka office maɓɓe ɓe yimɓe ɓe andandama wondema inde maɓɓe windama ni o seede maɓe jonni ɓe kamɓe ko inde ɓe andanda ko ɗum ɓe joddi inde koɓe ƴettiɓe kon ko ɗum woni ko inde yimɓe ɓe andandama wondema ko fotaɓe liggede sengo ceernoyagal pour hara ɓe wawata hayfus e Yaya Jammeh
nane kay takko namre rege yomi ka reso wati bokana kan jamme sof mi yaje ma sof mani koko mi ku jawa kola nane bara boko ko loya ko man koko jukmeno kone kay takko ko bokana ku kan ko safirum kay takko ko ya jamme amma mi be ngaru resolil ma te be babu ku muro mamba muri tike takum ngol no handi wa fo mami o wana wasa na wana ngol be kanidire mo fam mbangol na kaw na manama meno watu wa fitu purto
Mr. Chair,
Council, you've done very well. After hearing the testimony of the witness, you four brilliant lawyers have come up with the right title. Indeed, spiritual hit list.
Chairman ko lead council akai alido ku kende baleke barbitung atel lawyer nanolu alnata nyin kaito tola me yalon ko wole fongo nyanta kala atoti wole morolu nyanta kelo men kala jamme ka fot kaito nyin ka tola ko molu menno nyante kelendi la moria silola
Chairman mu ne mu ngi gërëm lead council nag ci xel mu rafet mi nga xam ne ñoom ñeneenti looya yi booloo nañ ci ba jox tur wi nga xam ne mooy tur wi war ci tur yooyu nga xam ne moom la jàmme binda loolu moo di ne ñooñu ay tur lañ ñoo xam ne ñoom lañ jox pour ñu song leen ci jaarale ko ci ay sëriñ
oy mo council a jarama tigiri an e yimɓe maɓe ɗum woni onon looyaɓe nayoɓen inde ko jonnuɗon kon ɓe yimɓe ɓe andandama heɓe winda e ndi kaydi inde no jonnuɗon ɓene ko inde moƴƴude tigiri ko ɗum woni yimɓe ɓe andandama wondema yeɓe fota e haɓede e sengo ceernoyagal e dow Yaya Jammeh
ande chairman la nyama asale council kuloyaku bakira nani mi jikan kam buroko ba jange buroko ba jongore parce que joni man jingare ka res ka jongore ji sendi kayita ko resoti buko kam de kayita made ko bukan kanu manje ko ya jamande jobe ka tikendi fu mure
Mr. Chair, actually the credit should go to Sagar Jahate and Mariama Singate for coming up with that very appropriate name. And if the list is accepted in evidence, it should be Exhibit 228.
Yeah, lead council ko bitum wo todiya nyanta dila menula wolem Sagar Jahate ani Mariama Singate amunda etele kaito nyin tola wonya bitum ning misali kama chairman be sonna pour ka dundi sede kayto lukono e nyanta akela sede kayto ala nomba nyanta kala 228 leti wolem sede kayti kemefula muang anin sayinjaw
waaw lead council mu ne chairman nag ndam li moom nañ ko jox rek Mariama Singate ak Sagar Jaxate ndaxte ñoom ñoo ñëw ak xel mu rafet moom nga xam ne moom lañ jox tur yooyu noonu léegi nag daf ko bëgg a dugal ci kayiti seede yi ñu jox ko li nga xam ne moo di limi ñaar fukk ak juróom-ñett
wi ay a jarama kono noon si yettugol no ton ko ɗum yettete ɓen ko ɗum woni council wiyeteɗo Sagar Jaxate kañum e council wiyeteɗo Mariama Singate ko ɓen fota yettede sabu bu ko kamɓe ardi e nde inde pour jonnugol nde inde ndi kaydi te si tawi woni wondema kiyaman woni heƴi e ma a jaɓi wondema pour ndi kaydi ndi wawe natinede kandre haala ha joni hinde jonde numéro mo andanda wona temeɗe ɗiɗi nogayes e jeetati
lead council na langi mu frema senchiama nane tate kanja anatu mesale ankoto mesale mariama singate di akone me sagar jahate o koto mesale parce que koku bimi ku ngulu karesa koku nane bari nyane karesa ka ende kayta ko kan nawre na ruddi kas enda di cdi ko panko senko karesa kati sikeme sigaba kanko gaba di futok si feji kabana di futok si feji astaghfirullah.
And Mr. Chair, perhaps before we do that, I should read out the list because we noticed that many people were struggling to get the full list as people think it is important to have the full names. I am sure the Mr. Chair reminded us those and his students of history that this is reminiscent of the list of enemies during the Watergate scandals that affected President Nixon.
Lead council ko bitun silang abe tolu nyili karannale katu mo jama be solari nyin tolu la barakata doli ko leati pour ka nyin tolu be kensun ke be soto koy laftala nyami andu nyin ko anim mennata mulia wala americano la wato men ka fo moy Watergate scandal wo mo tokuya kuleti même funditanu mo la president ya wuci ko no ka fo may president Nixon amunta nyin kayto la Kenya ni wala lafta muliala
muna nak chairman nako may mu daldi limat tour yoyeb ndaxte am nañu ci bari ñoo xamne ñu ko bëggona am te amon nañ jafé jafé nak pour mëna am tour yeb mu ngi koy mengalé rek ak xew xew bo xamne xewon na ci America jamono yi ki nga xamne mo fa jité won di Nixon.
wi ha joni kiyaman ko ne council ko ne ko wiide wi ha joni inde den o fala rewtade inde no hala sabu yimbe on jama on duudino ton be andana wa wonde ma ha joni be hebi cadele seeda pour famugol de inde fof te o wi wonde ma ndi kaydi wonde sidi jaba ma kadi o indi heba en nafa sabu o wi wonde ma dum himo nandondirde dum e goddum mawdo goddo wiete wonnodo America mandana wonde ma ko misali do kon hino yaadi mo nandondire e mum
nane mo nan kiama mambawno ma dikarita kan rega nyamo mu reso wondo mi ma mamba rego reso akun parce que baba kan kamen kan manyi kuma mambe manjo reso mi dir bar nikani ko afano nyi kolya nana banja arudo jadi sidi banja kayta kuku nama be nam ko di anifana ki America ko wi mane jaw meno o pop di ko ele namo
Mr. Chair, I'll read out the names now, and please, this would not require any interpretation.
Please proceed.
Kukoi Samba Sanyang. Kukoi Samba Sanyang. Panderi Mbai. Panderi Mbai. Esa Hawa Bukar Si. Essa Hawa Bokar Si. Maître Abdoulaye Wade, Sénégalese President. Maître Abdoulaye Wade, Sénégalese President. Karim Wade. Karim Wade. Sekou Sabali. Sekou Sabali. Ousseynou Dabo. Ousseynou Dabo. Halifa Sallah, PDOIS. Halifa Sallah, PDOIS. Henry Gomez, GPDP. Henry Gomez, GPDP. Hamad Ba. Dr. Boro Suso. Dr. Boro Suso. Lieutenant Landing Sane. Lieutenant Landing Sane. Baba Kajali Job. Baba Kajali Job. Sirif Ba Job. Sirif Ba Job. Pasala Jagne. Pasala Jagne. Ibrahima Ismaila Chongan. Ibrahima Ismaila Chongan. Captain Edward David Singate. Captain Edward David Singate. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Singate. Lieutenant Colonel Peter Singate. Tombong Sedi. Tombong Sedi. Turo Jaune. Turo Jaune. Duta Kamaso. Duta Kamaso. Fode Makalo. Fode Makalo. Useindu Mbenga. Useindu Mbenga. Keba Sanyang, former Justice Minister. Keba Sanyang, former Justice Minister. Samuel Sarr, Minister of Energy, Senegal. Samuel Sarr, Minister of Energy, Senegal. Cheikh Tidiane Gadio, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Senegal. Cheikh Tidiane Gadio, Minister of Foreign Affairs, Senegal. Babukar Blaise Ismaila Diagne. Babukar Blaise Ismaila Diagne. President Blaise Compaoré, Burkina Faso. President Blaise Compaoré, Burkina Faso. President Muhammad Gaddafi, Libya. President Muhammad Gaddafi, Libya. Actually, we wrote it out we typed it out in a sheet of paper. I just noticed that the spelling on the original document, James' handwriting, and the spelling in the typed document that we prepared is not the same, and we have to faithfully represent what is in the original document. The original document is President Muammar Gaddafi, Libya. President Muammar Gaddafi, Libya. Idrissa Seck, Senegalese former Prime Minister. He said Idrissa Seck, Senegalese former Prime Minister. Alaji Bora Manjang. Alaji Bora Manjang. Awa Sise Sabali. Rather, it's Hawa Sise Sabali. Hawa Sise Sabali. Amina Fall Sonko. Amina Fall Sonko. Antuman Gay Lawyer. Antuman Gay Lawyer. Abdoulaye Kujabi Dobong. Abdoulaye Kujabi Dobong. Ansumana Kujabi Dobong. Ansumana Kujabi Dobong. Mustafa James Kujabi. Mustafa James Kujabi. Alaji Mai Fati, GMC Party. Alaji Mai Fati, GMC Party. Sidia Jata, PDOIS. Sidia Jata, PDOIS. Dr. Boro Suso. He repeated Dr. Boro Suso. He is number 11 and also number 38. Dr. Sirif Sise. Dr. Sirif Sise. Lieutenant Bakari Kamara. Lieutenant Bakari Kamara. Superintendent Manlafi Sanyang. Superintendent Manlafi Sanyang. Mariam Jack Dentin. Mariam Jack Dentin. Momodou Kadi Cham. Momodou Kadi Cham. Madike Sipiter Diallo. Madike Sipiter Diallo. Pa Nyeling Suare. Pa Nyeling Suare. Colonel Ousmane Ndour Cham. Colonel Ousmane Ndour Cham. Major Khalifa Bajinka. Major Khalifa Bajinka. Zag Zignou. Zag Zignou. Emma Hart, Sky News. Emma Hart, Sky News. Peter Gomez, radio announcer. Peter Gomez, radio announcer. Pap Sen, The Point newspaper. Pap Sen, The Point newspaper. Madi Cisse, journalist. Madi Cisse, journalist. Fatou Diaw Mane, journalist. Fatou Diaw Mane, journalist. Babukar Bless Ismaila Jagne, UN. That's the second mention of him. Babukar Bless Ismaila Jagne, UN. Modou Cisse, UN. Modou Cisse, UN. Abdoulaye Balde, Senegal. Abdoulaye Balde, Senegal. Fode Makalo. Fode Makalo. Korosala, Sweden. Korosala, Sweden. Lieutenant Yankuba Baji, former Commander Kanilai. Lieutenant Yankuba Baji, former Commander Kanilai. Dr. Mamadou Lamine Sidat Diop. Dr. Mamadou Lamine Sidat Diop. Dr. Sirif Cisse, he too is mentioned the second time. Dr. Sirif Cisse. Mr. Bakary Ndiaye, formerly Gamtel. Mr. Bakary Ndiaye, formerly Gamtel. Mr. Jibril Jobate, USA. Mr. Jibril Jobate, USA. And Mr. Chair, the last name is Mamadou Lamine something, but it's not clear when the scanned document was sent over. So we will try to get the original document and try to also clarify the last name. That is the list, Mr. Chair, Jammeh's spiritual hit list. The interesting thing is some of the people on the list, like Mr. Sibiter Jallo, is a mechanic. I wonder how zipping his mouth would be relevant in this case.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed, Council. For the benefit of those who did not hear the reading of this list yesterday, can you give just very briefly background to the list and how it was put together, that it was from the original?
Mr. Chair, according to the witness, Sekou Jallo, this document was prepared by Yaya Jammeh himself.
Yeah.
Ko selo ya itandi nyamin nyin kaito amunta ya Jammeh fongole nyim parendi ka nyin tolu kafunyoma.
Chairman laaj na lead council tur yooyu naka la ñëwee lim ko wax nag mooy day seede bi lim wax mooy ne Yaya Jammeh ci boppam moo binda tur yi nii.
oy kiyaman ko landi kon council do honno de yimbe do honno inde dan hebori o wi ko jaabi ma kon seede ko jaabi ko Yaya Jammeh tigi woni neddo mo anda wonno kanko windi inde be yimbe.
Chairman bakkenge council alloya kama bukane man reso bunu bajorme alloya no jaabi yo minano a president o fango Yaya Jammeh safero reso bete be ba ko muro ma baroki.
It should be noted that the witness escaped the Gambia with these documents when he left around 2010.
Ansang hakilo to nyindo ko nyin selo fango abortale ka banko bula 2010 sango kono birabita afana ninyin kaito tata nyola nyin tolu be kaito membala.
mu di ñu xamal nag ne seede bi dafa dawoon génn réewi Gambia dem bitim réew te ba moo dem nag ci la àndaale ak kayit bii nga xam ne moom la Yaya Jammeh binda ci atum 2010.
council wi ha joni mo famina jama o wondema o seede mo andana ko adindi kaydi yeso TRRC do ko wattu jamanu mo dogayno o yaltandi leedi ko wattu o yaadi e ndeedi kaydi ndi andana ma wonda be yimbe na inde mabbe no winda e mayri
ma lead council pomba continue ka mangi nak bakanako matiko asedo mu wata na la ko me epuredi mo fami Gambia ete me pure mo fami Gambia no teorum de kayta koko.
2010 was the departure time of the witness from the Gambia, but the document itself was put together, he said, about 2008.
Yes, he said the document was put together circa 2008, that is around 2008.
Mem fota wala mnyinte selo nya borta ay bankobla 2010 barbitum kayto nyim fonla da wato o keta sango men kono wala 2008.
li moo dëgëral foofu rek mooy ne seede bi de bi moo daw di ànd ak kayit bi atum 2010 la woon waaye jamono ji ko Yaya Jammeh doon binda loolu ci boori 2008 la xewoon
ko woni ko wiide ko ɗum woni o ndi kaydi ndi andandama wonde hindi winda ɗo o seede hitande no yaltayno e ndi leydi o yaada e ndi kaydi ko ɗum woni hitande 2010 e sengal tubakore kono noon koye 2008 Yaya Jammeh windi ndi kaydi
wana mami be kam mangi nak pom nan asiedo nan la ko mi gitte jola mamba pour di mo fami Gambia yo kankani mitati 2010 bare kayta ko na Yaya Jammeh ko safala kewre sabu ko di kayta yo e mitati 2008
Mr. Chair, we have compared the handwriting with other documents we have that contain Yaya Jammeh's handwriting. We can tell you with all confidence that this was Yaya Jammeh's handwriting.
Lead council ko yaning safero bulla safero lem yani safero dolu lale ka korosi ke bonyoto me ya lon ko wala keta Yaya Jammeh la safer nyaati adu itata mentara je wolem nyinti ko nyin safero aketa Yaya Jammeh fongole la bulula saferoti wala ya itandi ko afongole nyin kayto safe
lead council mu ne biñ jotee kayit bi nga xam ne ci lañ binda tur yi nii binda ko ak loxo te ki ko binda moo di Yaya Jammeh jël nañ ko nag méngale ko ak yeneeni kayit yoo xam ne yooyu tamit Yaya Jammeh moo ko binda ak loxoom biñ ko seetee nag mu óor leen peng ne kayit bi bon Yaya Jammeh moo ko binda
o lead council ko woni ko wiide ko ɗum woni ndi kaydi ndi andandama wondema ɓe yimɓe inde maɓɓe no winda e mayri gila ɓe hendidi ɓe daaridi ɓe dartididi ɓe ƴetti kaydi wondi kadi ndi andandama wondema ko Yaya Jammeh windi ndin kaydi ɓe dartidiɗi kono ɓe faami wondema ɗi kaydiji ɗiɗi fof si a dartidike kaydiji ɗiɗi fof jungo windago ɗon go windungo ɗi bindi no ɗin fof ko bindi Yaya Jammeh ko jungo makko ngo windi ɗi kaydi andandama wonde ɓe yimɓe ɓe haalaɓe ɗo ɓen ko kanko windi
lead council on baysin ane kayta ko basafara bam dum ni kayta ko resabo kanako ka safara basafara bati Yaya Jammeh man kam won ko reg momu ko ne ko bangare man ko namen du basafara bana safara mdu yito waaw pop kanyina kola non ko namen du ko jike ni seti ko mate ko basafara bakuna bobu ni kayta ko bokum ni kanyina ko kayta ko woto Yaya Jammeh o nga wa safe mi di ko resatu wa mi di kayta ko ke
and Mr. Chair, well, the witness claims that when he escaped to Senegal, he entrusted the document into the custody of somebody for safekeeping.
Ko lead council ya fanyamin birin selo be borla anin kayto nyin tata nyolale biton biradu nda Senegal afana nata kayto nyin ta aya dum alanna mo bulu pour aussi kayto nyin mabo aye fo janni ngatebe sulalala.
Somebody has asked me why didn't I disclose the name of the person who kept the document? Well, my answer to that is we simply have obligations under the law. The statute obliges us to protect witnesses and sources. So it would be reckless on our part to disclose that information.
Lead council ko mo soton tale meya anyinin ka foko bring sedo nyimbe borla kata banko kabulan ko bula anin kayto tata nyola silang ay kayto nyin karafa jumalema Senegal bari lead council ya mari jabi nyina ko sartolu anin luwalu lanya kan ayaitandile ko ntel fanal ni sedo lu menu kadu koke nyi munna lon kunto duno leti nyanto la karola pour kawlu fanalu kanta satarante la kulu banke la kayitandi o dalilo le ya sabu amanson na fula o mariye kayto nyi ndita juma la praya mabo
lead council mune ki nga xamne modi sédé bi kayit bi nga xamne mom lañ bind tour yi ni bi mo dem nak di génn réew mi daf ko dénkaane kum óolu ca Sénégal pour mu gardeel ko mu ne nag am na ñoo xam ne ñu ngi ko laaj lana tax mënuta wax turi kooka nga xam ne moom la seede bi dénkoon kayit bi mu ne waaye nag ñoom ci ñoom luwaa jox na leen doole luwaa ar na leen ba nga xam ne képp koo xam ne ñu ngi jëflante ñoom wala képp koo xam ne jotee nañ xibaar ci moom mun nañ la bañ a wane sa tur ci wàlli sekkare ba nga xam ne luwaa bi dina la aar ci bunta boobu.
lead council ko dum ko woni ko wiide ko dum o seede do gila o dogay no ndi leydi o yalta o yawno ha Sénégal ndi kaydi non ko gila o hewti Sénégal wodi mo halfin nondi ton jonnon mo halfin nondi ton non o wi kanko lead council wodi landi do mo ko wadi o mo halfinado ndi kaydi on ko wadi a wirtani inde makko den yimbe fo anda ko hombo o wi lead council ko jaabi mo o wi mo wondema menen kadi e ley loi on menen hebi law droit wondema sifa dum kala dum andanda pour dandugol on tigi menen hebi droit hara inde on tigi men wirtani dum te men wawata mo wirtude jama on pour men jama on anda ko hombo duwaw hin mo bambi men e dum don
lead council na sanke minani asido na lakum gitte jola na joma janga kayta ko kan reso safelu media sen ananu manje ona fiume Sénégal ma famille Sénégal bare nane babaj kan ka kengol wakane kresa kati ana kilia amude ma famille Sénégal wakana tara kresa kola nane bare ko ko loya ko babaj luwe no manje ye woni sembay mate ko annonce na no manje mi ko ko ndi brokor atume seni kibere ko ko me ngare man ko rok broka bole ko ko luwe seni sen sembay man ko poya na kilia aneta manje o anakila bena anakila kresa kola aneta manje.
And Mr. Chair, when we first spoke to the witness and he told us about this document, he said this was a document of people Yaya Jammeh wanted killed by the Marabus.
Lead council ko bring ini selo dia mutanun kumfoloke ka nyin kaito la ko bonyoto selo nyina fayen ko nyin tolu menu be ye kensu nyin kaito balateng nyillo moluti men ya lonko Yaya Jammeh lafta nyille kalo filila nun moria silola pour nyille molta ta subita ko nyiluma jawolleti
lead council mu ne bañ njëkkee waxtaan seede bi bam njëkkalee na jox xibaar yi tur yi nga xam ne moom la Yaya Jammeh binda lim ko xamal rek moo di Yaya Jammeh tur yi mu binda fii yëpp ay nit lañ yoo xam ne daf leen bugg a rey jaarale ko nag ci yooni sëriñtu
wi gilandama seede on lead council gilandama seede on ado gila o haldi e seede on dum woni ko yaadi e ndi kaydi ka be yimbe inde mabbe no winda don seede on ko wimo wondama be yimbe be andama wondama inde mabbe no winda e ndi kaydi Yaya Jammeh hamme ko wadi o windi be ko dum woni pour warugol be harano yaadi e cerno yaabe haraw nabe be cerno yaaji harabe maaye sabu himo subiti wondama be ko yimbe be andama wondama be yidama ko gañobe makko
lead council na continue man ka sanke nane asido nan ko musumi ko tonka mi ka kolye mati reso wan ko sa femi di kaytak nane na rego ana regi rek manane yaaje mo reso wana sa fenya di kaytak wa fan ka mana sa fenya mana pare men nane be jo ba roke buku ma rokil ma buji di karay ku karay ku muro mona regi meno e mi ka kolye ka tonga di asido
and the person who was given custody of this document also informed us that that's the information he was given, that this is a list of people Jammeh wanted dead, so he put it together, and that is what he was told when the document was being given to him.
Kaito nyin dunta men fanambulo kono pra asa mabo ako birin kaito nyimbe dilala ñina fata yen ko ñin tolu menu be ñin kayto bala ñilo multi Yaya Jammeh lafta menu kalo filila andum wala na ye ñin tolu kensum ye kafunyo mandata fangle bulo ya safe o dalilo le ya sabu biribe kayto dilala ñinin ka roke yo wala fo ati fango fanaye ko ñilu mum molleti me yaron ko Yaya Jammeh ñin lamuta jawolti alafte kalo filale
mu ne ki nga xam ne moom lañ dénkoon kayit bii ca Sénégal moom tamit day mu ne bañ koo jox kayit bi liñ ko xamal mooy ne tur yooyu nga xam ne moom lañ bind ci kayit gi yëpp Yaya Jammeh dafa bëgg ñu dee moom loolu lañ ko wax moom it
te lead council wi wondama ndi kaydi kadi neddo mo andandama wondama ko ombe jonnono ndi kaydi woni Sénégal be famondiri e makko gila be famondiri e makko ko jaabi wi kon o wi gonga seede on ko wi kon ko dum be yimbe be andama wondama hebe winda e ndi kaydi Yaya Jammeh ko falano e mabbe ko dum woni warugol be harano yaadi e cerno yaaji sabu mo sobiti wondama be ko yimbe be andama wondama ko ko gañobe makko o nayidu be mo
council nani ana anu majimi o am Sénégal ana sida fiumi ma seno kayta kan ko safe mbok nak o po ku jamo di ana client nani bare o fo bana reg mi nani kabinang asida seno mi kayta ko mba yo fo ko parce que on fiu mo fiu nani wana rego mi to nani Yaya Jammeh buku kana safenya tu o ba mangi ma roki di fumori ma buji nani nana kula ko me seno la kayta ko o frima fu fo ko rego mi o bande ko seno kayta mo ngara nen fanu manje pan fu fimi.
We have had the testimony of the witness today.
Seedo la kuma kan lu moy le bi.
Seede bi dégg nañ ay kàddoom tey.
hande en nani o seede ko haali kon.
Jaat ko seedo na sanke mi nu jama jam.
But what remains is, even during our pre-trial, our pre-hearing discussion, he told me this was a deathless wish.
Hanibrin ni seedo be diamula janning kolbe damutala ay nyimmen foko nyin kayto de me ya safe ate mari la nganiyo mu nyinati ko nyimmenu be tobe nyin kayto bala ate laftala pour mari woli fa wala mala nganiyoti kayto nyin dalilo moldi
mune jataay yi nga xamne mom lañ dé faral di am ak seede yi bala ñoo ñew joxe seen seede fi mom ba mu toogee ak seede bi moom itamit wéral na ko ne tur yi nga xamne mom lañ bind fii day ay tur lañ yoo xamne liñ soxla ci ñoom rek mooy ñu dee
oui seede on ɗo e yaltude yeeso commission on ɗo e yewtidi e makko te on seede ko gonguintini kon e makko ko ɗo e ɓe arda ka yeeso commission on ɗo wimo wondema gonga ɓe yimɓe ɓe andandama wondema inde maɓɓe no winda e ndi kaydi hammi on fof ko eɓɓanaɓe ko ɗum woni ko warugol ɓe yiya ɓe maaya
nane a seedo bala bil ma la ko ma jongo du kus commission ko ma 5 seedi ko loke ko waji fu joj fan ko munde ku kan a seedo do fu joj fa kilafun na rek de na rek set na no kay ta ko kan a safe mi kay ta ko wonna pare mi won mi rok bu ko ma buci yona rege.
We would present all the materials and all the evidence around this issue to the commission, for the commission to evaluate and arrive at its own conclusion as to where the truth lies.
Bitu nyin kayto anim fem be dendi ngabala mbabe cikalale ka adi commission la bitu commission fon financina jibe ka crossi nyin ko to nyabe larin dawoda itelisa ajube ya kesemeti ka jaba kese woto pour isalon tigi fem be nyin kono anim membije to nyalom manke to nyaati pour isi wobonyoto we koyima mune kayit bi na bu ko defee dinañ ko jël dugal ko ci biir kayiti seede yi nga xam ne commission bi nag ñoom it dinañ toog dal di ko segga seet ko seetantal ko ba mun a xam lii nga xam ne moo nekk ci kayit bi lan la unda
o wi wondema ndi kaydi kala ko andantama wonda hino ɓaarode e fi ndi kaydi ɓe ƴettay ɗum ɓe jonna commission o joni no heddi e commission o kamɓe ɓe andi wondema kala ko haala no andandama no ɓaarode e ndi kaydi kala ko arana no ɓaarode e ndi kaydi kamɓe andi ɓe dako gonga si wona gonga ko haala ko e ndi kaydi kamɓe andi joni ɓe ƴetta e gonga en e mum
nyanane kayta kuku di wono so wan ko bajim di ka sanke ndu kan namdu di kayta kuku ko be nga tu ko sen ko commissioner ko senya commissioner wono so waragi to mi o kam mi malegen o kam mi ka gaajo commissioner ko fangi ko be magni man ko jike won ko to me e ko fojula ko to man ko kan wan ko rem ko kanenu.
Thank you very much. So that's all I have with regards to this document. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Lead Council ko numbara chairman bitu ngawale soto nyanta men fala nyin kayto la karola.
Lead Council mu ne jërëjëf nak chairman man nak loolu la amone pour feñal ci walli kayit gi ni.
Lead Council wi a jarama chairman min ko dum hebi pour halugol e ko andanda wondema hino barodi e sengondi kaydi.
Lead Council nani chairman a barka nya kanja wafni baje be rek di kuwe kayta koko wo ni rek nya mom.
Thank you, Councillor. But there is one important information that witness gave that you may want to just explain that it's not a complete list. That the last page with more names and James' signature was missing.
Kukilimbi chairman ko wonyanta senendi le pour molu salon ko sedo fon ya fu nyamin. Wolem nyinti ko nyin kayto men dita teng leral labango kayti leral labango me ya lon ko wala nyanta kafula nyiluma ya jamme fon la sign robe de la signature be damin wo kayto manje ngamera wo filitale nyaado nyama ko sedo nyim fon ya fu nyamin e chairman ko bitung ila ftaw to fanan senendi la mulu male kayti labango nyinde amanje.
Chairman mu ne amna benen fanna bu am solo bo xamne na wal nañ ko leral lolu modi tour yi ñu bind ni yeb amna benen kayit bo xamne mu ngi ci dess muy kayit bu mujjabi amna tour yi fa binda be pare ya jamme ci bopam sign nako bobu nak mo ci manki ñu xamal ko nit ñi amna lu manki ben tay
kiyaman ko woni ko wiide wi council do de no wodi gedal gotal ko andandama wonno heden foti labbinde don kadi dum woni kaydi ni be yimbe ka inde mabbe de winda don kaydi wotino don de andandama wonde din do yiyaka hal alfina no den o yondi o yaga te ndin kaydi heddindi ni majjuni ni ndanda ndi yaga ndi ya jamme tigi ko don o signi don ndin kaydi tigi yimbe dudu kan no heddi en windanda hino winda don kadi
Kiama nane consultate bo babaji wanotum kaseta nak mam kana ko tuku jam nane kayta babaji kayta kanu manje ko kujinji kayta ka kili yako reso mingi wondo po wan ko safere go yaaja ma safere di kayta ka kili yako abanna sign mi na nane barak asiro babu an ko semmi anda anan kum asemmi enene kayta ko nane kayta ku jinji kan manje mi yaaja mi na safere to abanna sign mi.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I agree with that. We're still looking for that page. I hope that the person who had custody of the document would be able to find it. But even if that document is not found, forensically, we would be able to show that this document was in fact written by Yaya Jammeh. Perhaps maybe we should limit the interpretation, otherwise we'd be here until tomorrow. So there are a few other things about the document that I needed to inform the commissioners. The initial story was this document was written in the presence of the witness, but he has tried to change that story again. And how the document was obtained by him, his initial story was he nicked it from Jammeh's room, but the later story is that it was given to him by the marabouts. But these are things that do not really affect the internal integrity of the document. But the commission ought to know those things and will deal with them at the right time. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Council, you preempted me on being here until tomorrow. I didn't realize that when the interpreters or the coordinators talked to me before we started the proceedings, that it was going to be consecutive interpretation, not simultaneous, going on from 5 different languages. If we were to go through what we all plan to say, we'll be here until tomorrow. So we have to figure out how we're going to handle this. Do we do 2 languages only and allow the proceeding to go quickly, or do we stay here very, very, very long for that? Interpreters, maybe you can help me.
Decided for us.
Zamani, what do you think?
Well, if you want it to be very quick, I think we can go along with 2 languages because it is important for the nation to hear what is being said.
Well, then we'll have to do it in all. Well, let's go on then. It's going to take a bit of time, but yeah, Council is right. We're going to do. And the Council, the only reason why we thought that we needed to say something about this document is that at some point, discussion of the document, its genesis, and the purpose that Yaya had in mind is going to gain traction in the country. And that's why I thought that we put everything on record so they can come back and then say, well, this is what we heard from Trrc, and Trrc was the one that received them, the document. But anyway, I think your point is very well taken. We will now proceed with our remarks. I will deliver a set of remarks, and now if you have a consecutive language going on, that's going to take quite a bit of time. I'm still a bit worried.
Can you excuse me? What I suggest is that
yes,
if you deliver your speech, the translation, we can do it one after the other to make it as quick as possible.
And I think you can go very fast because I gave you the text.
Yeah,
so
we all have the text.
Marvelous.
So after your presentation, we will start with Mandinka. Mandinka, I'll do the translation quickly, and Ida will do it, and Aliu plus Mariama, so that each one of us will do it quickly and summarize whatever is in the document.
Kabu Nyanchos can be very practical. That's why you are Nyanchos and win wars. Thank you very much. Sorry. Thank you very much. So I will deliver the remarks on behalf of the chair, as the commissioners will be speaking there on their own behalfs later on. On 7th January 2019, and they say 872 days ago today, We Gambians, through the Truth, Reconciliation and Reparations Commission, began a unique process of holding live public hearings of the testimonies of the witnesses, as well as those of self-confessed perpetrators of human rights violations and abuses that occurred in the Gambia during the 22-year military dictatorship of Yahya Jammeh. The principal purpose of the commission was very simple: to establish the truth of what happened during the 22-year reign. The National Assembly of the Republic of the Gambia enacted a law, Trrc Act 2017, that established the Trrc. The main objectives of the commission are, inter alia, to create an impartial historical record of violations and abuses of human rights from July 1994 to January 2017, in order to, 1, promote healing and reconciliation, 2, respond to the needs of the victims, 3, address impunity, and 4, prevent a repeat of the violations and abuses suffered by making recommendations for the establishment of appropriate preventive mechanisms, including institutional and legal reforms. The objectives also refer to that the Commission should establish and make known the fate or whereabouts of disappeared victims, to provide victims an opportunity to relate their own accounts of the violations and abuses suffered, and to grant reparations to victims in appropriate cases. When the Commission began its work, it decided that its public hearings will be transparent and broadcast live for all to see and hear the truth in real time. There is nothing better than telling the truth in the open. During the 872 days, the Gambia, and indeed the world, heard them from 392 witnesses, the majority of whom were victims of atrocities meted out to innocent civilians by the state, its agents, or individuals sponsored by both. The witnesses appearing before the Commission also included self-confessed perpetrators, as I mentioned earlier. The testimonies heard during these 872 days of public hearings brought pain and bewilderment to the population. They could not believe that the atrocities they were hearing from witnesses could occur in their country. A land of peaceful coexistence, a society imbued with tolerance of the highest order. They could not believe that innocent and ordinary citizens and other nationals found in the territorial jurisdiction of the Gambia, many murdered in cold blood, would be victims of the atrocities that were narrated. The commission of these atrocities by Jammeh and his cohorts achieved the desired effect of instilling fear among the Gambian population. It also gave them, as Jammeh and his cohorts, time and the space to pillage the resources of the country. Among the kinds of atrocities and other human rights violations detailed by witnesses during the public hearings are the following: arbitrary arrests, unlawful detention, unlawful killings, torture, enforced disappearances, sexual and gender-based violence, inhuman and degrading treatment, witch hunting, fake HIV/AIDS treatment, and general and widespread abuse of public office. The phenomenon of leaders of military coups civilianizing themselves was rampant in the sub-region of West Africa. These leaders rigged and held fast elections to perpetuate their own rule. The Gambia became a collective victim of this phenomenon. Witnesses have testified before the Commission that structures that underpin good governance, i.e., respect for the rule of law and the independence of the judiciary, were virtually non-existent during the 22-year Jammeh rule. Yes, Jammeh is gone. The killings by the state agents have stopped. Torture is no longer sanctioned by the state. Junglers have dispersed, some in foreign lands, while others stayed to confess their misdeeds. The folly of ruling the Gambia for 1 billion years abruptly and ignominiously ended in 22 years. Hitler had declared that the Reich was going to be around for 1,000 years. It lasted only 12. The crocodiles in Kanilai lay submerged in a dirty pond, while the peacocks in Jammeh's palatial grounds cry out ceaselessly and purportedly for their departed master. The chaos we recently saw at these grounds in Kanilai must not be the chaos in our country in the wake of the demise of the Jammeh regime. Our collective effort to build a new and a better Gambia must not, and I earnestly believe will not, be squandered. The foundation stone for a stronger Gambia, the draft constitution, seems, however, for the moment to be stuck in a limbo. We must confront our recent difficult history in order to establish a new governance and sustainable structure to move the country forward, to take its rightful place among developed societies. As we close this important chapter, of the Commission's work, i.e., the public hearings, I take this opportunity on behalf of the Commissioners, the legal team, and all staff of the TRRC to express our most sincere gratitude to all Gambians and members of the international community, especially the UN Peace Building Support Office, UNDP Gambia, the OHCHR, the ICTJ, the Institute for Integrated Transitions and International IDEA, for their unflinching support over the past 3 years. This Commission could not have achieved the kind of success it did without the support and the encouragement we got from everyone and the admirable cooperation of the victims' families, the various victims' organizations, and some of the perpetrators who volunteered invaluable evidence to the Commission. We must say a special thank you to the management and the staff of QTV, our media partner throughout this process, who have done a phenomenal job of executing their part of our contract of recording and disseminating the public hearings and other activities of the TRRC. Our gratitude is also extended to our state broadcaster, GRTS, whose staff have been with us from the very beginning. And we have also done or who have also done a phenomenal job of educating the Gambian public on what transpired here in this hall and other areas of the TRRC's work. We say thank you to iAfrica TV, Paradise TV, Kerfatu, Justice Info, and all the Gambian and international media who, through their various media entities, have contributed to the work of this commission. Finally, I cannot end this statement without thanking our own commissioners and staff, including our indefatigable interpreters and the sign language experts for the wonderful job they have done. We recognize the invaluable contributions of the various units of the Secretariat and of our team of dedicated medics from the Gambia Fire and Rescue Services to the Gambia Police Force, and especially the team of officers assigned to guard our premises and staff. Thank you for keeping us all safe. Indeed, it is impossible to say thank you to everyone who has made a significant contribution to the success of this process. But whether we mention your name or not, please note that we are eternally grateful for the services rendered to the TRRC. Thank you all, and a goodbye from all of us. We will see you again, albeit in a different format, when we present our final report containing our findings and recommendations to the President in just over a month. Thank you all very much. May I now call on the Deputy Chair to make a presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Assalamu alaikum to you all. The past 2 years have been an incredible journey in search of truth. There is nothing of greater importance to human beings than knowing the truth. Truth be told, the truth-seeking mandate is the most difficult part of the TRRC mandate, which includes reconciliation and the granting of reparations. Establishing the truth is not easy, as in many instances, the person narrating the truth may see it from their own perspective or as simply not being truthful. However, for the person that has been harmed, that has done harm, it is liberating that he or she tells the truth. That is why in the TRRC we have the truth shall prevail. From the perspective of the person that has been harmed, it enables them to have closure, to forgive, to reconcile, and to bring about healing in our community. But truth is not pleasant. That is why in Wolof we say, Dega Kanila. So there are many people who did not like what they heard from the public hearings of the TRRC. Sitting through the public hearings also has not been an easy task for the commissioners. It is emotionally, physically, and mentally exhausting. We are grateful to the Almighty that we were able to survive the public hearings as a team. I thank my fellow commissioners for their due diligence, their respect, and their resilience that enabled them to sit through the sittings. And I also thank the Chair for pushing us to the limits. Thank you, Chair. Now, it has not been easy, as I said, but the public hearings have had a profound impact on Gambians, many of whom were hearing these narratives for the first time, or who had heard them before and just brushed them off as mere rumors. The victims have come and narrated their stories. The perpetrators have also testified before the Commission, and experts have come to help us to understand the nature and the causes of these violations. We thank each and every one of them for helping us in our search for the truth, which we have brought to the public domain. As the public hearings of the TRRC were broadcast globally and have been watched and listened to, not only by Gambians at home and abroad, but by non-Gambians also, who have been given the opportunity to hear at first hand about the atrocities that have been meted out to Gambians and non-Gambians alike. The myths have been dispelled that Gambians are a friendly and a God-fearing people, and that they would not harm a fellow human being, much less a compatriot. The Smiling Coast, which was hailed as a bastion of human rights to the extent that the African Commission on Human and People's Rights had its seat in Banjul, was slowly eroding the principles and the values that the Gambia was known for. The public narratives of the survivors, which we have had, depict the realities of the Gambian situation during the period July 1994 to January 2017. It is not a good story. The killings, enforced disappearances, torture, unlawful arrests and detentions, sexual gender-based violence, and other violations resulted in a reign of terror and fear. We have to reflect on our past mistakes, to right the wrongs, and to commit to never again. Public memory of the 22 years of tyranny in the Gambia now rests on the collective efforts to keep the painful stories of survival and of loss alive in the public domain. To deliver on its never again promise, the TRRC will endeavor to preserve the stories and retell them in a manner that is impartial, befitting, compelling, meaningful, and appropriate, so that they resonate with future generations while remaining sensitive to the victims and being mindful of their interests. The Chair has already thanked the UNDP OHCHR office in the Gambia, but I want to emphasize that victim participation in the TRRC was enhanced by the Victim Participation Support Fund, which provided support for the immediate basic mobility, medical, psychosocial, and protection needs of victims, their families, witnesses, and informants, as well as for the investigation process, that is the statement taking, and the investigations that fed the public hearings. Noting that the participation of women, especially survivors of sexual gender-based violence, was limited in the TRRC processes, as of January 2020, the Government of Ireland also provided dedicated support to victims and survivors of SGBV through the fund to enhance their participation in the TRRC process. We are grateful to the UN representative and the staff of the project office, both past and present, for their disponibility, their respect, and commitment to the transitional justice process, particularly the TRRC. I will not name the others, as the Chair has done so eloquently already. But I would, at this juncture, want to thank the lead counsel and his team, both past and present, for leading us through the process and helping us to draw out the truth from the witness statements. The Executive Secretary and his staff for creating the conducive work environment and supporting us in our work. I will duplicate here the interpreters and the translators, including the sign language interpreters, for helping us to bridge the communication gap, especially when the national languages were being spoken. The media, who brought the proceedings into the homes and the hearts of everyone who wanted to see and hear. We thank each and everyone, the caterers, the cleaners, for taking care of our personal securities. As I said, Chairman has already done it. I don't want to go through each and every one of them again, but I am honored and privileged to have been part of this historical commission. I thank the President and government of the Gambia for appointing me to serve, the Victims Center for nominating me, and the people of the Gambia for endorsing my nomination. I hope that I and my colleagues have lived up to expectations in carrying out this noble task. We are grateful to our families, friends, and supporters who have accompanied us on this task. We are particularly grateful for their positive accompaniment of the proceedings, many of whom would reach out to encourage the commissioners after a tough day, or support a victim in cash or in kind after listening to their narrative. We pray that they are rewarded abundantly for their time and resources and support. We also thank our critics, both constructive and negative. The criticisms were helpful. The Commission were able to rise above the destructive criticisms and take the constructive criticisms on board to improve on its participants. The public hearings have come to an end, but the behind-the-scenes work continues. Under Article 20 of the Trrc Act, the Commission is required to grant reparations to victims. The Reparations Committee, supported by the technical and specialized units of the Trrc, will continue its work to ensure that reparations are granted before the end of its mandate. I thank you all. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Deputy, for that. We are now going to take the commissioners in alphabetical order. Unless interpreters, if you want to interpret these prepared remarks, I've not been informed whether there are other prepared remarks, then we can take the others. Anna. Anna has got a set of prepared remarks. Please, go ahead, Commissioner Jones. We'll take those ones first, and then the interpretation. And then
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, dear colleagues, audience, and the viewers watching or listening from home. Today is a bittersweet day as we draw the curtains close on our public hearings. It has been an intense 29 months, filled with successes, but challenges too, without a doubt. Notwithstanding, I am elated that we have partially fulfilled our mandate and would use the coming weeks to finish off our report and write our recommendations. I would like to use this opportunity to thank the government and the people of the Gambia for the trust bestowed upon me to serve in this commission. It has been an absolute honor, pride, and privilege to serve my country and the people of this country. Most particularly, I would like to thank the civil society fraternity for my nomination to represent them in this commission. Whilst I am displeased that the commission is yet to receive the CSO's statement to the commission, I do hope they will expedite this process to enable the commission consider their concerns when making our final recommendations. Sincere thanks and appreciation to my colleagues at the commission and the secretariat. This includes those who started with us, but for various reasons could not see the completion of this task with us. I thank you all for your tolerance, stewardship, duty, and commitment to service over the past 2 years. While we might have had divergent views on various issues, I'm happy we put duty to serve first, and that I am proud and happy to say we did so diligently. To my family, friends, and loved ones, thank you all most profoundly for the encouragement, support, motivation, prayers, and for keeping me sane throughout this process. This work has not only been challenging, but it has also been draining emotionally, psychologically, and physically from all the long hours of hearings. You all have been my strength and shoulder to cry on, especially on days when I wanted to give up, and I owe you all a debt of gratitude. Chairman's laughing. While our time on TV ends today, a whole lot of work still needs to be done by the Commission, as alluded by the Deputy Chair already, but more so by us Gambians, individually and collectively, to reconcile with oneself and with each other. It is our collective responsibility to ensure that never again shall such gross human rights violations, as has been revealed in the TRRC, happen again in our country. I know Gambians in the international community are impatiently waiting on our final report and the recommendations therein. I would like to use this platform to call on pressure groups, CSOs, any and every Gambian to enhance their advocacy efforts and to put pressure on the government of the Gambia to ensure that the recommendations of the TRRC are implemented as our work ends once the report has been submitted. That being said, I would also like to most profoundly thank all the witnesses that have aided this commission in our truth-seeking process. The witnesses that testified in public and those who testified in camera, and this includes both victims and perpetrators. For without them, we wouldn't have been able to establish the nature nor the extent of human rights violations that occurred in this country from July 1994 to January 2017. I know some people have had concerns that they were not invited to testify before this commission. I can assure you all that despite not appearing physically or virtually, if your testimonies were received by this commission, they will be considered when making our final conclusions and recommendations. Finally, to the many children who were orphaned at a tender age, to the women who were made widows and had to go to bed without their husbands at night, to the men whose lives were cut short, to each and every victim of torture, unlawful killing, sexual and gender-based violence, enforced disappearances of persons, inhumane and degrading treatment, arbitrary arrest, detention without trial, I pray God comforts you and your families. I pray for the souls of all the victims to rest in perfect peace, and may they all find favor with the Lord. To their family and friends left behind, I pray God continues to comfort you all and grant you all peace. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Commissioner Jones. Maybe what we should do is just continue with hearing from the commissioners. That will give you time, by the time they finish, to maybe summarize the prepared remarks, and you can just give a very brief summary at the end of all commissioners getting involved. You give a brief summary of our prepared remarks. So I will go in alphabetical order of commissioners. Commissioner Bojang, you have the floor, please.
Abaraka Chairman, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Amari man satalla tentu ngajay tumomina ya mbeni yosini lungala numba min kata biti. Mari man satalla tentu kola ana wulula fulul fanan tentu ngajay cause bi alta kola itolen tafutani bito fombe futala jisira minkan no bota jembe Gambia no be kontonna me bes ko sun kol be tentulambe jayila me fo nyin kol be tentulambe jayila katu ku woku ne aje a folota dulaleto fe o fe sulo le bala asulo sunta fo nyin la anata west coast anata mansatke ya president oto me mansatke fanana tentroni jayro mbala banna atella. Alhamdulillah Rabbi Alamin yan sasmina ngakele bila ba kum falunguti amang kum fa bamban bari alhamdulillah ñin karon njabiro mi yalan ko Gambia nan ko be sorane pour ka moy bila keta wolunguti ak fata ndese mi fono Gambia an kolye ndol be badin clean ndol be ndol ka ñoo wulu ndol ka ñoo bade ndol ka ñoo kulli ndol ka ñoo futu oto ku woku yaaje akabanne jiyolum abonta ate ko nola kanyina abe kole ala bari sitane hakilola na yam fanyoye ni atara min sano katu ko woku abete ko nyami imala be do ko nyami amalo ni mbota wala nsedwa hadama dingol min yalon ko ila wululal tata e dingol tata e kanuntel tata e badingol tata e be dawda alma la jan sonale alo mari ifota siyo min alma chokile badi mon siyola wo ko lamba fala tiarar sin kole bire media kata interpretation kata security snol momo bi jami yalon ko anata be kafta jam be ndo kola nga ku ke mo la mi yalon ko anel silo manta anbe yam fodan lali yam fatale al français yam fay do ko mandia siyo mandia bena ko kum fangala dami na commissioner kafunyo mal be mbe duwala li al tentu ngal jayi na insi kendo mi nga kejang ala yake ngake alhamdulillah bismillahir rahmanir rahim nata ban alhamdulillah rabbil alamin nata laban ko tete ka fale ko ha sabaro mandiade bari medwala mari masatallahi fo ase jisuma bonda nyun ko kan ko woku na ko leata anyata tala silo la nyami astani wo silo mana ko mota ngaji ni mbadi mfonyin kolla ngadi Gambia no la ngadi West kolla ngadi dunia bel wala mun na ko motin sel nsemen fono nga albetentu na Trrc kafo amin lo masakunda amin lo ngado ku fatata bulbala fatata marala bari mbele nga moy nyola andum bese dua ngajo ko ku ko le ataje ase bang fo fe luanya tala tamal ni silo mina ase tani wo silo la ala baraka ngal tentu ngal jayi ala baraka.
Thank you very much indeed, Commissioner Bojang. Commissioner Jamesise, you have the floor, please. Interpreters, can he speak in Sarahule? Would somebody be able to translate that later on? Or there is no one there for Sarahule?
No, we don't have any Sarahule translator.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum. Badingol menube Trrc jang ani menube lamoika. Malube kontona kontondrola komi banko biring tundol kono kana fo banko la nyatongol la ani kabula na député bungola e saso mendi commission la pour ka tamandi odo kole kum fata bi adu ngamol tentu folo menu yalon ko yemantoro taki itelo moti menni do ko ni sonandi nge tentu nge jay ila songola pour kana mabe Trrc kayla sede androl dija ngamo kotengol tentu menu fana yalon ko bulo dunta kool kono ifana nata pour ka son kool la menu keta ngol fana tentu ila songola media dokulal menu be jang ngol fana tentu pour ka kibaro janja mol tema itolle o sonandi molbul dunia be yalon ko muneketa hanibi ndoku nyol fana be jam menu mu kansulol ti ya kata bake ya barika ni aje kudol fintita alata ko lay tellom nge tendu wala nge jay bari banko mol mbe salon ko kule keta nyim banko ka ay munekani tonya fintita tonya men fintita ay munekani pour ka yam fanyoy no mantra ko nyin kono nyinote kenola adu hadama dingo ite nyina no la kuo menketa bari si am fanole puru ngamuru nyonka na sinin samo si betiano nyame olom nga kontondro futandi na tundo mol la menu keta basen kolti yo aral kol itolle mol tombo men nata finti kake commissional tini siramo kaja ntelbe siri telle to yala jam adu ko ku na keta ja itelle ko ni sonandi ntel be jam kaka fundi banko to mal be menu keta jam buro abe salon ko mune keta adu men keta mbele akara nyon fe adu be mendan la molbulu ni ko neba again akana ke koten sando le mude akana ke koten bari jumanyo le batina akana ke koten olom banko dingolti fo ngani na menketa ngasila kuto wele nyanta tala silo menna olomu biri ko nyinde ta bismillahir rahmanir rahim bilomu akum fadulati nga bang alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin an bi ben ndoku nyol konto na men mu commissionality biri do ko nyinde ta ni sayinte ma ko le ko kilim masoto do ko nyin kono ka feya ni tulungo ni jelo doron be wala ka ko nyin sobeya o kola nsina na secretaria fanan konto parce que itelle do ko ni sonandi nasula ko kuti itelle asonandi pour ka di molla ani be jama mol be ani kana sorlal menu ka kano sori o tolle atinna awa del menu be jan del makanjama moy bari tolle atinna famuro keta ko nyin kono fo do ko ni sonata mbulu wala atinna bi be na dimbaya fanan kontona menu be basse na dimbal birinna musolo ani dingolo ani mbadingol be konton lungo be mbena la jang asikeno o lungola a silango warta o lungola molbe dunkan do ko nyin kono wato me bari bi ala nata ke do ko nyin fele abanda kayro kono ak sotota itella duwa ole kono adu be ijayla wala be tentula hanbi be nakuma kum fala jang assalamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much indeed, Commissioner Jammeh Ceesay. Imam Jallow, you have the floor.
Thank you, Chair. Today marks a very important day in the history of the Gambia. For the last 29 months, we had everything. We saw many things, but many things remain in our minds. We have cried, we have laughed. That is part of life. The crying should now cease. Those who lost their fathers, their uncles, their mothers, dear ones, should now forget. The truth has been told. I'm sure there is no one in this world who has not heard the truth. And we can tell when the truth is spoken. The Fullers say, when somebody is telling a lie, he thinks that the listener has no common sense. And that is really funny. It's always so. But when you speak the truth, everybody knows you are speaking the truth, even if they don't accept it. I think today is a day of acceptance. The whole of the Gambia, no matter what tribe you belong, Fula, Jola, Mandingo, Sahule, Bambara, whatever you are, with all that you have had, you should now balance your mind and accept that these are true stories. Stories of people who have come to tell their experiences and people who have been hurt, who are willing to share this with us. Therefore, we should be sympathetic towards them and accept that what had happened today is what actually happened to them. And we accept the situation. To follow up, I think there is still a lot to be done. We have heard the stories. We have seen the victims. They come here, they cried, they mourned, they showed us their wounds. They gave their hearts to all the Gambia, not just to the Commission, but to the Gambian people. I think that is very important. And that should give us the opportunity to now create the opportunity for reconciliation. I am serving as the chairman of the Reconciliation Committee, and with the other commission members who are serving with me, we have tried to get to everyone. Unfortunately, it has not been possible. But even if we do not get to you, you must now look into your hearts and to know that you will never live forever in this world. You have to go and answer the call of the Lord. And if you have hurt people, you must learn to say, I am sorry. You must learn to say, I am sorry. And for those who have been hurt, they must find space in their hearts to say, I accept. I thank those people who nominated me, the religious leaders of this country, who asked me to represent them on this forum, to hear all these interesting stories and to witness all the sad events that occurred in this room. The commissioners I worked with, some of them were contemporaries in the service of the Gambia. Others have just known when this program started. But we have come to be a family. We are all available, all times, on question of reconciliation, because it will never end. The matter is there, the material is there. Even today, I had a very interesting story, but I will not tell you this story. It's a thing that is very interesting, of people who have learned to show love and respect for other people. So, ladies and gentlemen, my thank you goes to my commissioners who worked with me, my brothers and sisters. As I said, some whom I have worked with in the service of the Gambia government. My students who are sitting here looking at me, I taught them in high school. You've seen many people come here to say I taught them at high school. Today they are high-class doctors, high-class lawyers, high-class agriculturalists. But that's what God has called me out for. I can proudly say that I have taught for 60 years, 60 good years. But the experience I have gained in the last 29 months is more than whatever I have learned in my life. I have learned to see nature and to see human beings in their situations, in their moments of joy and their moments of anger, and in their moments of torn between the truth and falsehood. But that's what life is all about. We are human beings. To err is human, but to forgive is divine. I think this saying is what we need to understand as Gambians. Whether you are a Mandingo, whether you are a Fula, whether you are a Jola, whether you are an Aku, or whether you are Pachadinka, or whatever you may be, you are a Gambian first and foremost. On your national papers, what you have is Gambian. We must learn to be Gambians. If we have to learn to be Gambians, we must accept what has happened to us and what will be happening to us. The end is not nigh yet. There are many more years to live. I'm sure we will be seeing each other and hearing from each other. But what we have had over the time is enough to teach all of us a lesson. All Gambians should learn a very interesting lesson of truthfulness and falsehood. These two go together. What you have had here over the time falls between these two lines. But if God has given you the will and the ability to decipher what is true and what is not true, and to pick up that which is true and carry it along with you in your life, God will bless you. Victims, perpetrators, commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, but more importantly, our lead counsel and his team. They have done it all for us. They have sacrificed time when everybody else was sleeping. They are on their papers providing the information that we give here in this hall. The researchers, the clerks, they are wonderful people. They have all the time in their lives. But they have sacrificed to stay on and see us through to this very important day. And we should be grateful. And we are grateful. We thank you for everything you have done for us. You have given us courage to deliver what was expected of us. We will wait to hear, after the report is submitted, what government will do. The ball is in their court. This country is ours. Men may come and men may go, but the Gambia will go forever.
Thank you very much, Imam Jallo. I hope some stories that you talked about would stay with you. Don't disclose some of those stories to anybody. Commissioner Carr, you have the floor, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. It's already been clearly articulated that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. We took our first steps a few months ago, and today we are at the closing, the end, but not the end. As rightly said, we have a lot of work still to do, especially in presenting the report. Nonetheless, it has been eventful months, many months of eventful issues, many months of hearing testimonies from the witnesses who have come before this commission. And the important thing is that it has been a learning curve for many of us, including myself. It wouldn't have been possible to come this far without those of us who are sitting here and many people out there. And I wish I could extend a hand of gratitude to these people. First and foremost, starting with Chairman and my fellow commissioners. I wish to say that as a young person, the relationship that I have formed with all of you in the past few months is going to remain in my memory. The jokes, sometimes the difficult arguments, the difficult decisions, we haven't always agreed. But one thing is certain, that the friendship that I have formed with you, as I said, will remain forever. This morning, Mr. Chairman reminded me of something very important, and that is the future of this country is in the hands of us young people. And he reminded me of the daunting task that we have to fulfill this mission of making this country a better country for everybody. It's not going to be easy, but the steps and the work that this commission has done would definitely be of help in ensuring that we fulfill our responsibilities to the future. One of our ancestors said, every generation has a mission. You either fulfill that mission or you betray it. I hope that this transition, especially the role that this Trrc has played, is going to build those strong bricks that would provide the necessary impetus for all of us as young people to play that role. I wish to thank the National Youth Council for nominating me to be part of this process, especially the former executive director, Mr. Lamin Mokendo Dabo, and the entire staff of the council. I wish to also thank the former Minister of Justice, Mr. Batambedu, and his team for also working towards establishing this commission, and also to the President of this country, His Excellency President Barrow, for approving my nomination to sit here. When I was nominated to be part of this process, I knew it wasn't going to be an easy task. National tasks are never easy. But one thing I had in mind was always to do my best to represent about 68% of our country, 68% of this population, because we form the greatest bulk of the population of the Gambia. Therefore, how young people are seen in the years ahead would greatly depend on my work here. And I wish to say that the commissioners and all the staff of this commission have made that very easy for me. I have never felt, as a young person, that my views were not being listened to. I wish to say, Mr. Chairman, thank you for always listening to me, even though sometimes he calls me a troublemaker. But I enjoy that. I think it just goes to show that the work hasn't been easy. I also wish to say thank you to Mr. Baba Galajalo and the rest of the secretariat staff for not just listening to young people, but for making sure that young people play a pivotal role in this process. About 98% of the staff of this commission are young people. We've been given the chance, and I believe we've executed our responsibilities to the best of our abilities. And so it just shows that if young people are given the right opportunities, and if they are encouraged, and if they are supported, they can definitely achieve great things. And I do hope the rest of the country can definitely learn from the Trrc to create the opportunity and the platform for young people to contribute their quota to national development. I wish to thank the members of the Youth Committee, myself. It was not under the commission, but it was under the secretariat, but I had the opportunity to chair that, so I wish to say, Mr. Sambo and the rest of your team members, thank you for working with me and for working with everybody here to ensure that youth voices are heard in this commission. We've traveled throughout the length and breadth of the country, meeting thousands of young people, sensitizing them on the Never Again campaign, empowering them, giving them a role and a voice in this transitional justice process. I do hope that our efforts will not be in vain, because one of the most important things for this commission is the Never Again campaign, preventing a reoccurrence of dictatorship. And the knowledge and the skills that you've gained should be put into use in that regard. I also wish to say this in my final words, that there's this Indian saying, there's this Indian proverb which says, we do not inherit the future from our ancestors. We borrow it from our grandchildren. There is a lot more work to do in this country. As I have said earlier, young people must be part of that process. Young people must be given that opportunity. There is a lot of talk, but sometimes these are not meant. So young people have to be incorporated into development efforts. Unless we do that, unless and until we do that, Gambia will never achieve its dream. Finally, I must say thank you to Mr. Esa Fall and team. Esa has been a good brother of mine. Of course, I should not say we are related, because I'm related to a lot of people, but it's been a wonderful months working with you as a brother. I have learned a lot from you, to be quite honest, and I'm sure you have also learned a lot from me. But to be quite honest, I think I feel the same for all of us here too. I should not forget Anti-Youth, Mama Adelaide Sose, for always standing by young people. Of course, we cannot thank everybody. We cannot thank everybody. Sometimes you do forget. Sometimes even the littlest of details. Somebody reminded me that we should not forget to thank the cleaners. But that's it. When we mention names, when we mention people, sometimes we tend to forget. Finally, I've said many finals. It just occurred to my mind not to forget my late father, who's played the most important role in my life. When he was alive, he would watch all the sessions of the commission, and he would call me in between these sessions. Sometimes he would cry. But this is the feeling he had for this commission. And he loved me a lot. He supported me in everything I do. Unfortunately, he's not here today. But I do pray for him, that Allah forgives his shortcomings and grant him Jannah. But that also Allah forgives all of us for our shortcomings. For the victims who are not here today, may Allah forgive them. And if I have done anything as part of human shortcomings, it's all my fault. And if I have done my best to represent young people to the best of my ability, it is all thanks to Allah the Almighty.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Carr. Yes, indeed, I always try to provoke you, fight you, and we go through lots of things and say the youth of the Gambia, the future is in your hands. And Commissioner Jones also occasionally hears from me, trying to provoke them that women should stand up. You guys, both the youth and the women, don't surrender to the old men. They've had their thing. The culture tells people, respect old people here. Yes, listen to their stories, this and that and that. But the future is in your hands, I tell them. Go ahead and don't do it. Women, don't agree with them on anything. Just move on. The future is, you are the ones who need to be liberated. But anyway, they've heard it from me. Commissioner Carr and I argue a lot about lots of things, but he's a brilliant fellow. Thank you so much. Commissioner Kinte, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. I thank Allah the Almighty for His beneficence and mercy for giving me the opportunity to go through this challenge. I thank my parents for instilling the requisite values in me that helped me be on momentum, and also my family for being with me all along. I would take this opportunity to thank the people of Lower Badibu in particular, who did a lot of rigorous screening to have come up with me as a representative to be gauged and screened along with other people from other districts or consequences, through which alhamdulillah, eventually I came up to be the representative of the North Bank region. I also thank the President, apart from the whole Gambian people endorsing my appointment, because for all the commissioners here, our names were displayed for quite a while to have asked the whole Gambia in here and in the diaspora, in a very popular international fora, to see whether they think we are fit to take up this job, even before we took it. So our appointments have been rigorously vetted by Gambians and endorsed by Gambians in general. But most particularly to the President, I thank him for the final endorsement. And not only that, I want to convey his message. I remember on two occasions during legal year celebrations, the President will hold my hand and congratulate the whole Trrc through me and feel pride to the job that the Trrc had been doing. He did that on two different occasions, in a very popular moment where he was surrounded by a lot of people. So definitely Trrc had got what, in fact, had deserved it, but had got the recognition from all over the avenues. Of course, it doesn't mean that we'll have critics who will think otherwise, as some speakers have said. But nonetheless, the positive ones we pick up. We are human. But the negative ones also we accept, because we know there is divergence and there is diversity. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves diversity. That's why when He creates nature, He made sure that it's diverse. That is the beauty. Thank God that we have been very receptive and very cognizant of the various views, and very accommodative in putting them on board and analyzing and taking the good ones out of it, the whole lot of the people. This leads me to the avenue here. I may be a bit emotional for all what happened here, but I'll thank our legal counsel, for a wonderful job. The Secretariat, for a good background work. The interpreters, for letting the whole world know in their diversity what has been transpiring. The media, in particular, the various media houses and personnel, for their vigilance and commitment. They have always been there. Even though sometimes we will be late, they have never been late. They were always there and on time. Also, I'll thank the UN and all the other support partners from all over the end for giving us the requisite paraphernalia and moral support, motivation, and so on. Indeed, I wouldn't want to forget those people who groomed us. They give us the prerequisite stamina endurance, foresight, and vigilance to be able to take up this job. A lot of the discoveries we came through, we had mostly been prepared for, even before they came. We were told that this is very emotional. We'll come across events when it can be very terrible, horrible, traumatizing, and so on. And so we had to be prepared. On that note, SI, your second cap, together with your fellows who gave us the relevant resource during our resource training prior to the inauguration of the Trrc, particularly at Sunset Hotel. Yes, in here we have had a lot. It's not easy to seek truth. Because human being, many a times, the ego is in conflict with the conscience. While the conscience is telling you what actually is the thing, the right thing, the correct thing, and so on, the ego is not willing to agree because of the complexity, implicity, and so on. Nonetheless, the experience here is that a lot of people have agreed with their conscience and told the truth. Of course, not so much people, not good percent of people said the whole truth, the entire truth, and always the truth. There are a number of occasions that certain truth will not be said because it is not in favor of the ego. Those ones, Eza did a lot to get them out. He will circumvent, crisscross, until he comes out and dig them out and put them on the table. Congratulations. You need to earn a lot of credit here. To the perpetrators, only very few of you have agreed 70, 80%. Most of you have flawed, argued, I'm sorry please, but lied, a good percent, in denial of the truth. It's never too late. I want to seize this opportunity to appeal to your conscience to gradually and eventually accept the truth, whether among people, in front of people, or behind closed doors in your own self. Accept that you have wronged. That is one step progressing. Please accept that you have wronged. You don't only accept that you have wronged. Please be willing to show remorse and plead to Gambians for forgiveness. It will never be too late if only you accept the earliest. The experience here has been very traumatizing. We can't imagine the Gambia, which was well known for its virtues and values and has been referred to as the smiling coast of Africa, for which we had earned a lot of regard and respect all over the world, and in Africa in particular. There are indicators, the Human Rights Commission, and so on. Our president was one of the champions. When I mean our presidents, I mean the president of the First Republic, was one of the champions of human rights in this world. He has not been ranked low among the lot in the whole world. He had been ranked, and his government, among the best in the world. Of course, this deteriorated over the time, nonetheless. But the values that Gambia has been known for, we are cherishing, loving, tolerance, embracing. We almost got eroded of all this in 22 years. If you compare the two, you will be amazed that this happens in the Gambia. And the most disgusting part of it is that it was done by Gambians. It is time we accept the truth, not only learn, but accept the truth. Accept that we have erred for 2 decades, and it's high time that we rectify. We come back on track and accept the truth. This is not what Gambia has been characteristic of. How did it come about? I'm not going to say when did it come about, but how did it come about? I'm not out here to make blame games. Of course, not in various proportions, but we have all got our part of it. That's how it happened. We have all got our part of it. Not in equal proportions, but indeed, yes. Therefore, it is high time for us to accept the realities that this was our own mistake as Gambians, that we are ready to reform, to bring about the requisite changes, so that it doesn't occur again anymore in this country, anymore anywhere in the world. To the victims, I know it's not easy to endure what had been encountered, frankly speaking. In some instances, the magnitude is unbelievable, intolerable. I'm not even sure whether some of them may not even be unforgivable. Nonetheless, I am appealing to all of you, for whatever has happened to you, to please forgive. You may not forget. Some of them are scars on the body, in the heart, in the psyche. So you may not forget. But you may still have space in your heart and forgive. I'm a member of the Reconciliation Committee. And we are all out making all efforts to appeal to our conscience or to our individuals for forgiveness, for reconciliation, for closure. It's not going to be easy. But the pace has to be set by the victims, by the perpetrators. It is they who have to show remorse, regret, and plea for forgiveness. That is when the room is open for the victims to suppress the trauma, whatever they have, and have space to forgive. For us as a committee of reconciliation, we will only facilitate the process. But a good part of the play is in the hands of the perpetrators. I am urging all perpetrators to see how best they reconcile, they opt for reconciliation to the people they have offended. Of course, Trrc is doing a lot. We have our reparation package and strategies, policy, whatever. That is aimed at giving some comfort and closure to the victims. Certainly it cannot be enough. The value of one life cannot be paid by anyone. cannot be refunded by anyone, so we are not attempting that at all. But at least to say, please forgive. Trrc is doing a lot in that regard. From whatever support we have got anywhere, and what recommendation we will place for the government to make sure that those victims are reparated. My final area, which is the most important thing now, is for the never again. In order for us to achieve this, it is we, the people of the Gambia, who will have to change. And change for the best, not only for the good. Look, we have seen here, it is not the security, it is not the lawyers, it is not the teachers, it is not the politicians. All of them, in one way or the other, have either surrendered or have been subjugated to the resultant effect. So it will require a lot of conscientization. A lot of sensitization, a lot of reorientation in its various forms and strategies. I'm appealing to the academies and the educationists to pick abstracts of Trrc findings and activities and include them in the curricula and try to help prepare our children. I'm not sure whether it's not too late for the elderly, but the bulk of the work should be directed to the young ones. Let them be taught how to be honest. Let them be taught how to be impartial. Of course, they have to be tolerant, but to the acceptable level that will not compromise their future and the future of the country. These things have to be instilled in our children. They have to be our target now. Even the youths are getting out of the bracket I'm considering. And in fact, they have to take the bulk of the blame. Those who perpetrated this were at the prime period of youthfulness, 25 to 35. That's the prime level. All of them were within this bracket. And they did all this to us in 22 years. And those of us who aided them came from all the brackets. We supported them. So this is not stratification here. It's the fact that we have to accept the reality. Gambia must be willing to change. And in fact, the focus has to be the children for posterity. I don't envisage any short-term strategy for this. Indeed, I'm not for envisaging. The long-term strategy is what I'm envisaging. That we instill those values in our children so that they will ask, for example, Dad, I know your salary is not more than $5,000 a month, but you've bought a car. You have a very nice house. Dad, well, normally service duties are between 8 and 4. When it's extended, it goes up to 8 o'clock. But sometimes you'll spend the whole night away. Doing what? And so on. Let's make our children to become critical and challenge us to tell them the truth. And in that way, sometimes I will say, oh, I don't want my child to interrogate me. So that alone could be deterrent, and so on. Whatever strategy we use, the civic education, the schools, and so on. Let's work on our children. For example, now, from 0 to 18, should be the bracket I desirably want us to target. Not 18 up, from 0 to 18. By the time they are 20, 25, 30, we would have got the required values that we desire for a never again in this country. I'm sorry, time doesn't allow us. I would have loved to have 2 more hours to go on, but unfortunately time won't allow that. So on that note, I thank everyone, for whoever has done in making this job a success. Of course, it's not all finished yet. I'm sure we have restless days and weekends to go on until July 30. It's not July 7, Chairman, until July 30 that we have to put up our report and give to the President. I thank you all for your kind attention.
We are going to build a Hyde Park in Banjul, and you can get there this evening. Just go on all night speaking there. Thank you so much, Commissioner Kinte. In alphabetical order, we would have had Bishop Odiko here, Commissioner Odiko, but he apologized. He's involved in the meeting of the Anglican Church Synod. That's why the governance structure of the church. That's why he's not here today. Commissioner Samba, you have the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Mbafula aujubillahi mina seytaani rajim, aujubillahi mina seytaani rajim, aujubillahi mina seytaani rajim. Mbe ala tentula, mbe annabi jayla. Iko kuo kuyaje, akabanne, ala drone la mansa yabu kaban dunia kono. Bari fenfe yaje dunia kono akaban. Andu fenfe yaje dunia kono fana akakolya akasono ya. Bi mbe manso tentula baake mbe na jarankol tentula wol meyente si jambi mawulu jara mankulu jara do ko len si jara nata si jara sanji tan saba sanji say mbe sirin jara jarankol nata jibe yente kundingo tombong iko pour ngana mabe Trrc bengoto akolya tambelu baake because kuma jamal le futa dol ko do ko nyani badi lay kadi mula mem jaran koti mem wuluta jara kuluta jara bar ngani ne fo jaran ko le ko mankulu jara mawulu jara bar jaran kol man siyanti jara kadum ko ye bata kunjulo le sarenje mfana nga bata kunjulo le sarenje andun abemu Gambia dingoleti mbemu Gambia dingoleti bari natanana ntombong mansa kunda toya la fanan mbe tentu la mbe jayla do ko nya ko le atambulu bakele num folo mune ya kolya kuwol men kita jam nim bankun kan ku jamale kita nim bankun kan wotu moy kanta man ser nyaadi le wo commissioner men ka kumbo e kanta man ser wole lanu ndingol ka kam fa baake ka fa nyite wo jannen Trrc be banay te be falal wonte men ketan kamira wole la bar dunia dum ni Allahu taala ko membe kala wo be kelal de jomale ke fambatande dum bari nyum kuleti me yalon ko alale ko abe kela aketa woto mbe mo be danila ko ko leata nyawo nya ni sonta ko tele ko ke yayi tan ni mo bela kon tenga ko ke woto nyanta dani ro fanan kala kay tan di mo belal ko ngagnen ko kala de bari magnan na kala be al danila katun ko furja jamale be nyim bankun kan lanjur jamale kita nyim bankun kan ke jamale lanjurta musu jamale la njurta dindin jamale la karangol tiñata o be sunta kebaro men keta so nte si men dani no wala ñinti ko ari nga ke bakilim fakilimoti na yam fañoye to nya ñino buka ke de ñino buka ke abada bari fonsi yam fañoye doron ko tata nata because men be ñanta fola mbadi ngul ya be fole bari fonsi yam fañoye ikata man seri ngata man seri kilindi yalla wala ñinti ko ma dimo na be balo bala akende ata wato wati ni nyaayaje hakilo ka bula nyina ko ne nañi madi men kare ay dimin sifa kenu bar sa fe la kende ata lafta be dani ro kala gambian ko le yeti ara si muta ko ntel nata kiskisi role yembula kiskisi role la pour nga kiskisi roke nga o kiskisi roke nga jella njurol men keto o kiskisi role kono dol torata je dol batata je dol fata je bari laftale o kiskisiro pour memme ye bataro ke je memme to nyindiro ke je lo dunia be tinyatili wala ya fa ko ngani neke wo be kala kuleti me ya lonko abe da handila sama andum abe kandala le pour abe karandila le pour sama menketa akana fulanjam menketa akana fulanjam abe kolyala bari fonsim fanju so nyabo nga daniro ke ala e kilaye puraye makoy nga jusu sumayari ngosoto no men satin nan si nyina no nyinna nsi yamfa kadin ko nyino wote kala bari yamfa ron si yamfa bayri dunia mo ko ko langani ko sona yare ngoleti na kolyata dawda aka sono ya jeli do ko kolyata num baake bari ala nata nanna ma koy nga ñotete yam fata ñoy hanin tel membe siri janka ku ke ñoy le me yalon ka yedi min nim ma yam fa ñoy nam futata da men bi to min wolun samoy kari nin kari kelta kari nin kari sonkata bari kabirin tel ngati Trrc dati jang anim bi te man namana moy moni moy ñoo sapa mune ati na munyata ñoy ka tun ko mbele bota dulal to me yalon ko manke dulake li molti manke nation ki li molti mankulu ñoo kan woto nal be benta momo ni fansun jikolom be intela diamo tesiala because men be nyanta folo be fotale be interprete sol tentu lambe jayla be esa fal na la mol tentu lambe jayla because luwolu nintel jitantel nyongol nin jite ka fe kare al nyanta soronnal kari ma nyanna sayla intel manke loyalty me ya lonko magistrato me ya lonka safo no kari nyanta soronnal tonya esa mu loyalty bara man na nyen kama ko ka fa ko be kari le soronna anata kiskisirol la ka itandi mol la ko nyenyi neke ndella do ko nim paleta mbadi la man sakundal la ka itandi man sakundala ko nganyine do ku aliyam bula nyina la nga tentenne esa yem mako ya tamela nga fufulawol ni kenda mal bo nyota felente justice le bina decide la même bina kala o mari la bantanga mo jamal le kalamta ningi da kana fanyele kari manyanda tala tele mistake ko le te kari nyanta soronale luwa man tarantel bulo kon adi mantel sindi jam pour nga fa ko be mo kari le soronambe kari le fala oto nyanta tala hakilo la nin tata hakilo la nte nyoto nyel ko kolyata de akolyata baake saya kolyata baake le saya kolyata baake bari hani ala me yentel da akadi mo la kanata muna fole yati nambuka ala tofu anu ko wandi mi wota dinde ngo dila ya mendi fa menta ya fa bari ka kafa ala kamal bari mbuka itandi mo la ba meta nyaaw nyam babula la because atele adini mo la tele afa oto nyimu banta quality ninga mo tonye nga itandi ko nga tonye sonta ko nga tonye ali nga yam fanyole ali nga ke ala ni kila nga yam fanyoy ni ma yam fanyoy nyim banko titade kan ko ku jamale kete jang ni ma yam fanyoy banko tita e nga tentro sayndi fenke mamdiri na la mol baba galle na la mol la ya kata baake kadum ko nimma ma ko inum futata damente futala je security personnel fanan mel ya lon ko itel lebentel kanta kan suta tili mba fula ala baraka camera manol mba fula ala baraka commissioner fanan mba fula ala baraka nte tenturo bannola mafo imam Diallo ya baraka kadum ko ya kata mole baakele kabirin ko assalamu alaikum jani bite ma ntel kono batele bulo kon woto ntel teñina la dentel mu Diallo le de ni ku kem moya nyanta fole lay nimbara commissioner Diallo inimbara siyo mandia siyo koleata bakele ngamo motora TRRC mbe yam fo danila le yam fanye ntede momo yen toñi yam fata bante nga memmen toñi nga memmen tora mbe danila ale yam fanye kanu ko nga ku jamale jang karanta ku jamal la jang ku jamale karanjang fo yam fo sike dorom mbe Allah taala danila mbe mo be konton na mbe jayila mbe tentula ye do ko men di molla ala o mari nga kuma si bismillah kono ala mangal labang alhamdulillah rabbil alamin kono bare ku jamale ka fode andu ni metulo suki tombi num binte futala nyen tembento kadum ko mol manke kilinti dor ba frantel be wuli ale fokan nka ko dole di molla nka fo moli le ko al nyim fo anon tama jiki ko mo be tar la dunya kono ye fan dun dunya kono mente dalila kanti imam mengi mel be faroki janne lota janne ko itele faroki oto mo man janna fula won fan yalte ko kan ko mel yake wolle lota jay ko yake so mbe ala tentula mbe annabi tentula andunte tenturo bannola mom fanta bojan samate tentu na former commissioner ayakata baake jarankol fanam be tentula mbe jayla koteke kadum ko ni la siyo diatal ni wonta no bim futata damen binte futala je chairman bal tentula be vice chairman tentula be commissioner be tentula bal be hake danila ale yam fagni.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Samba. You were tempted to reveal a secret of the Commission. I'm glad you didn't go very far in thanking Imam Diallo. And I don't think I'm tempted also to reveal the secret of how a big lunch comes every day from his family. And commissioners during lunch break get inside there, and everybody is around this thing, eating a lot. Sometimes I get shocked when I come around and they see the mondo will be watering, they'll be firing. I said, come on, what is this? But yes, indeed. Imam C, it's your turn now. You have the floor, Imam C.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuhu. Miɗo salmina fof ko idi fof taw miɗo yetta Allah. Allah gadduɗo men mo ha tolniɗen ɗo. Haade sono ɗum gasano si ɗum feccaman pecce tati pecce ɗiɗi ɗe jaama heddi feccere wotere. Den jetta Allah gadduɗo men mo ha tolniɗen ɗo. Heɗen jetta dendagal ɓe dentuɗen ɓe liggey mo fof heɗen ɓe jetta heɗen ɓe calmina ko idi fof mboɗo salmina komi sonaɓe ɓe dentumi ɓe golle ɗe ko ɓangral ma ko Lamin Cissé ha kala ɗo foti woni si yawtuman heɗen jetta secrétaire e dendagal yimɓe maako eɗen jetta faal e dendagal ɓe o gollitta den jettat cameraman en ko bangral mako e QTV ay GRTS hay journaliste be gonbe be do fo garbe be do fof hay entrepreneur en be fof hebe jette hebe jaarne he golle he heden jetta aduna Allah nga fof parce que be fof be cettim be mbima TRRC liggim liggey beso ɓe ligim liggey gonga gonga nga ɓe ɗaɓɓitannoga Allah hollumɓe ɓe jiima hen ko ɓe poti ko hen yi eɗen jetta aduna nga eɗen jetta keɗotoɓe ɓe ganduɗa ɓe kadi ko mbasɓe pittali maɓe he nder laamu gila duuɓi nogas e ɗiɗi ha hande ɓen mbasɓe ɓe hen pittali maɓe ɗi fof heɗen ɓe du'ano yo Allah yurma ɓe yafoɓe nawɓe aljanna gañiɓe ɓe hen yo Allah sellinɓe dañɓe ɓe hen caɗele kadi yo Allah lomtinanɓe koɓe keɓata on siyawtu man en wiyam Trrc ligim yima gonga ko idi taw mboɗo yetta Trrc mboɗo yetta Trrc mboɗo yetta leydi amen ndi fof mboɗo yetta galle am ɗe ɓesngu am rewɓe am ɓe fof mboɗo ɓe yetta mboɗo ɓe du'ano joni Trrc wiyam golle gollam golle jodma kono ɗum heddi eɗen jetta lamɗo mo ɗen jetta laamu mako ngu ko heddi ko hen koko timminta ko golle ɗe haaɗe mbeyɗa ko timminta ko golle ɗe haaɗe mbeyɗa ko wadgo ngo ko haala ko e wadgo ngo ko waɗɗi ko woni ko toon ɓuri hen fof sattu noon ko rivareson mo podɓe ɓe dañɓe ɓe haqqeji maɓe ɗi yoɓe totte haqqeji maɓe ɗi timma kala komi sona gonɗo ɗo ko a mbaɗɗo a waat e place ma he jooɗiɗa hen a fenata a watta ko wona gonga on ɗon noon koko jari accid haqqille on siyawtu man si liggey mo liggam han laamu ngu heɓi mo han laamu ngu yo wallu men ɓe timmina aadi yo ɓe ballu men ɓe timmina aadi wota mo haɗa haqqe mum kala mo ganduɗa hoorema on ko poɗɗa dañ ɗum kala poɗɗo yaafotire yo yaafotire saabu Allah e nelaɗo kala ko manque yi han toon e ko wasa han toon wona golle Trrc saabu enen alata ko mbawɗen forsu ala ko mbawɗen wawno enen ko golle men ɗe ko ɗaɓɓitgo gonga en kemmaga UNDP heɗen ɓe jetta ɓe nangan men ma ɓe ballu men ma kala tampare ɓe tampum hen sayman golle ɗe jottiga ko Allah e maɓe Trrc tottam kalis mo gasata kalis mo heewi aduna nga fof nan mom aduna nga fof yi mom ko yaratano temetteti seede ɓe ganduɗa hoore ma ko dañɓe probléme aji potɓe wallit potɓe tottu ko ɓe poti ko tottu yo ɗum totte si ɗum timma golle men ɗe timma ko ala ko ɗe nafata taw tan ko foti ko hen waɗe rewlaka he laawol ngol ngo heddi en mbalma golle ɗe ha ɗe jodma en mbalma golle ɗe ha en jiitum gonga kono gonga nga wawa timmu sona ko ganduɗa ko hoorema on reggina beela ɗum timma rivareson mo yo o rew laawol yimɓeɓe yoɓe totte haqqeji maɓe ɗi gila liggey mo fuɗɗa e hande huude nde ha hande nde hoorima gas yo nde gas on si yewtu man ɓe gandanɗama ɓe hoorema ko dañɓe hen caɗele dañɓe hen fitina teɓe jaama ha wonko ɓe mbiya wonko ɓe kolla yoɓe totte ɗum saabu aymo mo garɗo mo ɗo hanki o wima ha hande courant e koyga ma koyga ittaka liggey mo noon ko timmintamo tan ko wadgo ko wiya ko wona wigo min jiima gonga Trrc wanma ni on ala ko woni aduna nga fof setti mondema liggam seedeji garɗi ɗi fof ala mo hulti ala kala neɗɗo ko mbaɗɗa ko a haalma ɗum teɓe porsaka ɓe mbawnaka koko de ɓe beela ɓe gaari ɓe kaali ɗum nden noon si ɓe kalma ɗum ɓe ballu men ma ɓe kalan men ma gonga enen ne yo laamu ngu wallu men timmina ko ganduɗa ko hoorema on woni e juuɗe maɓe enen ko woni koye juuɗe men he timminen ɗum en timmina ɗum an liggey men mo ta ala ɗo yeehi taw ɗum heddi sabu ko on tan woni gonga nga on woni fof ko on tan min jogui ɓen ko kalanmi assalamu aleykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh
Imam Sy, thank you very much indeed. We'll now go to our very fantastic legal team. I always tell Esa that the role that we have sort of divided, he is the bad cop, that's the good one. He does the dirty job. He is the one who would hit somebody on the head. I have to pretend and bring some balance and then make sure when the temperature goes up, sometimes, yes, allow the temperature to go up. Some would turn around, some commissioners would look and, can you stop that thing out there? And then I allow the thing go on at some point. And the witness at the end of the day would think that I'm an angel and Esa is the devil. Go on like that. But it's all part of the task given to us to establish the truth of what really happened in our country. And our lawyers have done a splendid job. All of them, they had their moments of acting tough here and there, and I play, as I say, the good man, the balanced fellow, just give that impression, and we move on. But we're trying to establish what really happened here. So we find a way of preventing the repeat of this kind of a thing in this country. You guys have the floor now. Let's hear from you.
Good evening, everybody. Well, as lead counsel, I think it behooves me to say the thank yous on behalf of the legal team. It's been a very long journey and a very difficult one. But like Mustafa said, a journey of 1,000 miles would start with one step. Before I venture into saying much, I would front load the thank yous, because I tend to forget at the end of the day. So I have a list here, very uncharacteristic of me, but I have a list here. And I want to do the thank yous first, so that at the end of the day, I won't be found wanting in that regard. So charity begins at home. Let me first thank the wonderful ladies who make me look good when I do my work. Without them, this would have been very difficult. I thank you all for your support. I thank you all for standing by me. I thank you all for putting up with some of my unreasonable instructions. And I thank you for instilling the confidence that I always exude. Thank you for doing that. But more importantly, thank you all for being my sisters. Thank you for being my guardian angels. Thank you for keeping me in check, and thank you for pointing me to the right direction. Without you, this would have been impossible. And I also recall fondly Horeja Baragay, who contributed immensely to the work of the Commission. We can't thank her enough. And the legal team's work could not have been done well without the investigations. And I thank Abdou Mane, for leading the investigation team and for unearthing all the material, all the evidence that's been presented before this commission. And before him, there was Alaji Barrow. And I also take this opportunity to thank him for doing a splendid job for the commission and to this nation. And to all those who supported us, the Secretariat, they've been fantastic. They saw to all our needs, which made it possible for us to do this job, especially all the specialized units of the Secretariat. We worked mostly with the victim support unit and the psychosocial support unit and all those other units. Thank you for everything. We also thank the interpreters, the cleaners, and even the cafeteria personnel for feeding us coffee, for me, mburo liver now and again, and all that. So we thank you all. We've been a little family here, ably led by Dr. Cisse. He does not like to be called that way. He likes us to call him Lamin. And thank you, Lamin, for showing us great leadership and for showing us humility, for showing us straightforwardness, and for showing us commitment to the job. And that's been quite wonderful. Mr. Chair, I took this job because I felt at the time that terrible things had happened in my country the call of duty has arrived, I had to do something about it. And for that, I thank Honorable Abubakar Tambedu very much for giving me the opportunity to serve my country in the capacity of lead counsel to the TRRC. When I took the job, little did I know that it was going to be the most important work I have ever done. I have done cases of the highest order. I have done cases that are most complex. I have done cases that are much talked about everywhere else, from genocide against sitting head of states to some of the most notorious rebels. I have done them all. And I thought I have seen it all. But little did I know that the information that I was receiving about my country, disturbing as it was in fact the tip of the iceberg. I remember that day at the Sunset Beach Hotel when I gave that presentation on how to investigate these cases, and we tried to chart out a map on what the investigations was going to be. I mean, much of it came off head from our brainstorming exercise, and I didn't see much of it. But Mr. Chair, sooner I discovered that we are dealing with a very dark chapter in our history. I realized that what we were dealing with was a beast with many heads. A member of the team just tipped me a little while ago, suggesting that perhaps I should have given a closing statement. I recall I discussed this issue with the chair and we agreed to defer that to some other day. But I can't really stave off the temptation to say a few words about what we have achieved here. In 1994, a group of soldiers hijacked our democracy and suspended our constitution and made us believe that they were soldiers with a difference, that they are going to salvage this country and save it from rampant corruption, nepotism, and bring in transparency, accountability, and probity. And we embraced them, at least many of us, me including. And if we are all honest, most of us, the majority, embraced it. Because also, we were tired of the slow pace of development. We had a great democracy. We had one of the best civil services in the world. We had an unblemished human rights record, one to boast about everywhere. But we kicked it aside and embraced a military junta. And they made us believe they were soldiers with a difference. And that is, in fact, or was in fact the commencement of our inquiry. Soon we realized that they were humiliating our political leaders, they were humiliating the elite, putting them on military trucks and dumping them in military barracks. They attacked people on the roads to show power. People were shot at by these convoys. We have received evidence from the actual perpetrators. Sana Sabali himself came here and told the commission all those shenanigans they were doing. They were imposing their will on the Gambian people in the most dastardly manner. Mr. Chair, we saw them attack the security personnel and dumped most of the senior security officers in jail unlawfully. Unlawfully. And we have seen how on the night of September 6th, they Nicodemously went to the jail and unlawfully tortured and brutalized these senior military officers. It was done cowardly. We have had Edward Singate testify about it. We have had Ibrahim Chongan testify about it, and a host of older soldiers testify about this. I wasn't prepared, Mr. Chair, to deliver closing arguments, but we would give you a gist, a flavor of what we were dealing with. As if that was not enough in the night of September, they started arresting our political leaders again and torturing them at Mile 2 prisons. We've had Edward Singate talk about how he managed to stop it. We have heard Sana Sabali talk about how he did it, how OJ and others became victims. But this was just these little symptoms that were emerging. Lawyer Usman Silla wrote to Jammeh and told him how he was seeing the seeds of dictatorship being showed and how Jammeh was planning to self-perpetuate himself in power and that he must stop. He was one of the few brave men who dared the burgeoning dictatorship and protested directly to those concerned. But these guys, they had a different agenda. As they were pushing constitutional reform with a view to bringing in a new constitution, it was quite obvious, at least to lawyer Usman Silla, that these people had no intention of relinquishing power. Even if we were to return to democracy, it would be democracy as per members of the junta, democracy as per Yahya Jammeh. And the facts would soon unfold, Mr. Chair. As the junta started taking the necessary steps to silence all sections of Gambian society so that Jammeh can self-perpetuate himself in power. And we have seen the steps he's taken. The first was to silence the soldiers. We have heard what happened in November 11, where they took 11 officers and men of the Gambia National Army and executed them in cold blood, in utter blatant violation of the law. These men were unarmed. They were stripped, almost naked, humiliated. They were tortured and executed. And we have heard how the leaders sat before the commission and derided the international conventions that apply to all people of civilized behavior, the Geneva Conventions and the additional protocols. Much to your chagrin, Mr. Chair, because I could recall you telling Sana Sabali, I spent years teaching generals about these rules. You sit here and tell us that these are not important. They disregarded completely the applicability or the application of these laws and did what they wanted. I recall Edward Singate saying, Jammeh told us to take no prisoners. And he interpreted that as an order to kill all the ringleaders. And that is what they did. On Remembrance Day, or day before Remembrance Day, they executed their colleagues in cold blood. They wanted to silence those who could potentially challenge their authority. But they did not stop there. The next step the next step was to see who were the dissenters. Quickly, Sana Sabali realized that they are off onto the wrong track. Soon, Yahya Jammeh had different ideas. Sana had to go because Sana had the audacity to say, no, we got to go back to the barracks. We've heard Edward Singate about how they hatched a plan and eliminated him, and falsely accused him of something he never did and has no clue about, dumped him in prison, tortured him, and secured a conviction of him for 9 years. He even testified before the commission that he served his term. They wouldn't even let him out. Well, we have seen his name on the wish list. How did you call it? The spiritual hit list of Yahya Jammeh. He was that much of a nuisance to him. He too deserved to die, at least spiritually. And then Koro Ceesay came. And then come Koro Ceesay, a young man with the brightest future ahead of him. Super brilliant, of high intellect, wonderful training. Because he objected to their nefarious plans, they had to silence him. But knowing Koro, sacking him from the job would not have silenced him, they decided to silence him permanently. Those were the words of Mustafa Marong, former Minister of Justice, who appeared before this commission. And that was the beginning of the crisis we were going to face. Because at that stage, Gambians started acquiescing. Gambians started accepting. The complaints reduced, and Jammeh won elections. The beginning of much more trouble to come. In order to further solidify his power, he started attacking the media. We have heard how over 140 personnel of the media fraternity were arrested, detained, and some tortured. We have heard how media houses were attacked and burnt, including that of our chief executive, Baba Gale Jallow, who on several occasions was whisked to the NIA, threatened and intimidated, like many of his colleagues who had to end up in exile. Because Jammeh had to muscle the media. They had to keep quiet so that he could self-perpetuate himself in power. But he did not limit himself just to that. He attacked the students because they dared to complain. We remember on April 10 and 11 how 14, at least 12 of our young people, students, were brutally butchered along Kairaba Avenue and near Red Cross and so forth, by forces under the command of Jammeh. And we have heard how the instructions came from Cuba to Aissatou Njie Seydi, who appeared before this commission to say, well, he ordered the military to go and take care of the situation. We have heard from Grignai, who explained how they had instructions and he had to shoot at students. Mr. Chair, the attacks on the Gambian people were not only limited to that. Through a beauty pageant and through a protocol girl system, our sisters were humiliated, sexually abused, just to further subjugate the Gambian people, and so ego and so superiority for one's self-aggrandizement. We have seen, Mr. Chair, how institutions were created that are aimed at further strengthening or creating a dictatorship. The NIA, with all those monstrous powers they were given, and a very compliant justice system, anchored and chaperoned by so-called Nigerian mercenary judges. And we have seen how investigative processes and judicial processes were compromised in order to produce desired results for Jammeh. And Mr. Chair, not only the institutions for investigating and prosecuting and judging, but even the institution to keep these people, the prison, became his five-star hotel, lacking of any facility that would help a person have a good life. The mere fact of being in mile 2 is a violation of a person's rights, because it is completely at odds with the UN standard minimum rules for the treatment of prisoners. And, Mr. Chair, if one were to end up in mile 2, you leave being half the person or less of the person you were when you went in. And Jammeh knew that. That's why he called it the five-star hotel. And we have seen how Jammeh had dealt with those people who dared challenge his authority, or those he perceived to be challenging his authority. And we have heard of all those so-called coups that happened and how he dealt with them. We've heard about the Ndur Cham one in 2006, March, wherein those who were involved and those who were not involved were corralled and taken to mile 2 prisons, brutalized, taken to the NIA, tortured and forced to give confessions which were used against them in court and convicted. We have heard how Langtombong's evidence was manufactured. In fact, today our witness talked about how they sat there and manufactured evidence to Jammeh's knowledge, which led to sentencing Langtombong to death. And that is the ultimate. It could have been executed. If that had happened, we would have lost a patriotic son, unlawfully. And this has happened several times. Mr. Chair, even political dissent was so suppressed that Jammeh could easily sail through elections. He manipulated the laws to ensure that he remained in power. That's why he had the audacity to tell us, I will be in power for a billion years, because he had all the confidence. He's taken all these steps. He has instituted a dictatorship. And when Sandeng and others decided to protest, he treated them in the only language he understood, violence, leading to the death of Solo Sandeng and the brutal torture of his cohorts. This was the Gambia that we had. So important was his throne to him that he would not even spare his relatives. We had today from a person who was very close to him that he killed at least 5 of them just because he believed those people wanted him dead. And in the process, Mr. Chair, I have just sat down here and draw up a list of those who were killed attributed to Jammeh and his forces. And Mr. Chair, my count, or our count, came to 214 people. 214 people in a small country like Gambia that borders or smacks of crimes against humanity. for a country as small as Gambia that smacks of crimes against humanity. And I can give you a list. November 11, 11 people, 11 soldiers summarily executed. April 10th, 12 school children and 2 people executed. His relatives, 5 of them, Haruna Jasaja, Sise Bujiling, Momadou Lamin Nyasi, Masi Jame, and others. 5 of them. Daba Marena and Co. We have heard from the person closest to Jame just yesterday as to how Jame sat there and planned how to lie to the Gambian people what happened to these people. How Tumbul Tamba called and said, tell him fucking mission accomplished. And how he was given a big bag of money. Daba Marena and Co. lost their lives unnecessarily. They did nothing. We've heard how the West African migrants were butchered in several places around the country, 67 of them. Initially, we thought there were 34, then 44, then 57, and ultimately 67 people butchered. And the government went on a campaign to cover this up. Well, we have had even today the witch hunting exercise that was ordered by Jammeh. 41 people died. A lot of them, our grandmothers and our grandfathers, humiliated, tortured, some sexually abused. We've heard about the fraudulent PATP, that is the President Alternative Treatment Program. We've heard that. Well, only one person claimed to have been cured, and that person did not come to the commission. It's being rumored out there. But everybody else who was in that program and testified before this commission said that they are still HIV positive, and that soon after the treatment they had to go into conventional medicine. Without that, they would have died. They were hoodwinked into believing that our president had a cure. And Mr. Chair, let nobody kid you. If the president of your country tells you he can do something, the tendency is you would believe him. He fraudulently lured our sick people into a treatment program that was bogus. He was a charlatan. He was a quack. Can't be described in any lesser way, Mr. Chair. Ensaketa testified here and talked about how he was captured and taken to Kanilai and being tortured. And 8 people he provided that list were killed while he was there. 8 people. And he, including that woman who was supposed to have a beard, and they butchered her for bamboo sada to be given to the crocodiles as charity. Charity for who? For the benefit of Jammeh. Why? For him to entrench himself on the throne. If you add that all together, it gives you about 204. Well, yes, about 204. And then we have written down another list of those who are not counted. Korosise, Usman Korosise, Deda Haidara, Baba Job, Ndongo Mbub, Soldau, Mahawa Cham, Ndur Cham, Tumane Jallo, Abdoulaye Gueye, Alma Momane, Ahmadou Doumbouya, Dawda Nyasi, Mustafa Koli, Ilo Jallo, Mariama Kamara and her husband Alpha Jallo. This we've not been able to investigate conclusively yet, but we are still at it. Mahmoud Sise and Ibu Job. We had Oya. He testified before here. He said Yaya Jammeh instructed them to chop them up. It wasn't sufficient to just kill them. It wasn't sufficient to decapitate them. They had to chop them up. Gruesome. 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 And Tumbul Tamba. And I will come back to him. The Nigerian killed by Almamo Mane after the Jammeh convoy. Well, we've had Jallo today and yesterday saying Jammeh protected him. This was a country where if you kill in the name of the head of state, you get protected or even get promoted. This was the Gambia we lived in. Yaya Drame was captured. The rebel attack in Farafenye, he was tortured so badly, few months later he died. Jammeh created these institutions wherein torture was the name of the game. Torture was the order of the day. It was his star chamber. We've heard the NIA officer saying that torture was almost certain to happen in cases where he is involved. In fact, we've heard from someone so close to Jammeh who told us sometimes he will come disguise and participate in torture. Well, the public may not have heard that. Yes, but it is evidence before the commission. We have heard how video recorders are carried by some of his agents, and they will take videos of tortures, well, and maybe even killings, because we have heard how Dabamarena and co were dealt with. Tumbul had to come with a video recorder and a video camera and had to show Jammeh proof. I am ashamed that this was the country our people lived in. I'm ashamed that this is the country that my parents lived in. I'm ashamed that this is the country my children live in, and this is where they're growing up. This is what happened in Gambia. Between 220 murders to 250 murders occurred in this country during Jammeh's rule, attributable to Jammeh. And that is not the enforced disappeared. We've heard from Sekou Jallo. Jammeh told him, oh, Solo is lucky, but for my mother, I would have disappeared him. Well, disappearing people was part of his modus operandi. Indeed, Buba Yabo disappeared. Abdoulaye Anne disappeared. Babai Sanyang disappeared. Chief Ibrahim Amane disappeared. Omar Haidara disappeared. Sidi Sane disappeared. Momodu Job disappeared. And Kanyiba Kanyi, we've heard from his wife how the NIA took him away from their home. We've heard from people who were at NIA, at Mile 2 prisons, describing how he was taken away at night. So bad it was that when civil servants went to work, they're not sure they're going to come back home. And to tame the civil service, he had the laws to do it. You dance to his tune, you're safe. You don't, you face the peril of a false information charge or an economic crimes charge or being sacked by a letter of 1 or 2 lines, or at least 1 sentence, without recourse to law. That is the evidence that's been unearthed before this commission. There may be deniers. Yes, there will be deniers. But these numbers don't lie. These numbers don't lie. If you ask the family of Solo Sandeng, they would tell you we feel the pain. Deny as much as you wish, but we feel the pain. If you ask Amadou Kebe, he would say, deny as much as you want. I am walking with 1 foot shorter. Ask those students who were there on that fateful day of April 10th. Some would tell you I have a bullet lodged in my body. Those things don't lie. Deny as much as you wish. But the facts speak for themselves. And the Gambian people have seen it. What we had was a terrible dictatorship that would do everything to self-perpetuate and to strengthen its so-called supremacy over the Gambian people. No wonder it demanded to be crowned. And we had minions running around the country trying to secure that. We have heard Yaya Jajusi saying that the meetings were held at his home. If the Gambian people were in strong at that point, we would have been having a monarchy now. The kingdom of, I don't want to say it, with James Junkung the first as our king. That is what was going to happen. And thanks to God, the Gambian people dug deep into their reservoir and said, no, 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 it's not going to happen. But by this time, we had gone too far into a dictatorship. We have gone too far into self-perpetuation with 22 years. We have gone too far deep in corruption, where the whole treasury and the central bank was an extension of the executive household. We have heard from Mr. Njai, who testified a few days ago, how his property was taken away from him in gangster style. Mr. Chair, all these things I am saying tells me crimes against humanity, crimes against humanity, crimes against humanity. And the forum to deal with that is not only limited in Gambia. It could be Gambia, it could be Ghana, it could be West Africa, it could be somewhere in Africa, it could be the ICC. So no matter how people deny, no matter how one can control what may happen in Gambia, that same institution cannot control what happens outside or elsewhere. We have seen Hussein Habri. He's run away for 20-something years. He had to face the law. The other day I saw a publication with the Justice Dial pointing at Jammeh. Perhaps that is what needs to happen. Justice must happen. We all crave for reconciliation. And that is fundamental. That is absolutely important. We all crave for unity of the Gambian people because we are in one little boat. And all of us have to be our brother's keeper so that we can keep this little boat afloat. But that said, there must also be justice. There should be justice for the victims. There should be justice for us as a people because we are all scared, we are all traumatized as a people because of the dark chapter that happened to us. 22 years of brutality, 22 years of disrespect for the Gambian people. But we are the cause of it because we succumbed. We accepted it. We coached him through it. We guided him through it. We told him we would accept it. And no wonder when he threw water, even some of our imams would dive just to touch that water, because coming from him, it has spiritual value. Embarrassing situation. This is what I see Dr. Cisse asking whether that is true. Yes, indeed, it happened in this country. Dictatorship, self-perpetuation in power, and corruption is a recipe for disaster. But in order to free ourselves from those shackles, we have to ensure that there is rule of law in this country and that we have strong democratic institutions. Otherwise, we are doomed. And this has to be the cornerstone of the recommendations of the TRRC. If never again is to be meaningful, it has to be anchored on rule of law. It has to be anchored on strong institutions. It has to be anchored on a disciplined society. I pray to God that we reform our attitudes and we show commitment to this little country called Gambia, that we have so much, as said by Mr. Carr, borrowed from our children. We have to be careful the Gambia we hand over to them. If we do not correct the ills of the past, we will be sowing seeds of disaster for the future. I leave it at that, Mr. Chair. I think we have made a good case. Even those who are in denial, if they search deep down, they would see that the truth has come out. And the truth is, Jammeh took us on a wild ride for his own self-aggrandizement. He has to pay the price. And those who enabled him also have to pay the price. Justice must be done. It must be seen to be done. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Council. And the opportunity that we have at the moment, as I indicated earlier, must not be squandered. Thank you so much, Lead Counsel. Secretariat, Deputy Executive Secretary, you have the floor, please.
Chairman, thank you. But I think really after hearing Serin Fall make his statement, we would have rather just said goodbye to everybody. But then all the same, he mentioned that at the beginning when he was discussing about these things on the whole, he was just getting the tip of the iceberg. We thank God that with the help of the MOJ, Minister of Justice, that set up this commission and guided us through in our recruitment process, we were able to recruit a corps of staff that were able to go under that iceberg and uncover what was actually hidden under the water. In September, October 2018, the Secretariat started recruiting the staff for the TRRC. And at the end of the day, we ended up with about 120 staff distributed amongst the various units. Each of those units has some specific functions, but they were all geared towards meeting one objective. And that is what Saint Fall was talking about. By the way, Fall, I call you Saint Fall. I've been calling you. I don't know whether you know why I've been calling you that name. But I'm calling you that name because you have been teaching a lot of people out there in the population issues regarding rules of law, violations of human rights, and so forth. So I thought, in Wolof, if we were teaching anybody anything, then you are Sering, and therefore I call you Sering Fall, and that's how the name came about from me. Now, I wish to thank particularly staff of the Victim Support Unit, the Research and Investigations Unit. Of course, all other staff would have my thank you, but I am singling out these units because of the trauma that they had to be going through in interacting with victims, the risks that the research and investigations people had to go through, meeting all these people, all these perpetrators and so forth, being able to convince them to talk to them and get them to come to the commission to speak the truth, whether half truth or full truth, whichever. So Abdul and team, Khadijatu and team, we say thank you very much. Special thanks would go to the UN system, represented here by, Ida is here, but she has left her twin sister behind, that's our Peters. These ladies, they help in providing 75% of the furniture that we have. And they're not just stop at that, but also we are providing some support, financial support for staff salaries. Right. Now, the CRS has also been doing their bit, so we say thank you. Now, out of the 120 staff, you see, we go by what we teach in here, or our dictates. We give so much emphasis on youths and youth development. So 90% of the staff are youths within the age group of 16 to 55, no, 35. And out of the 120, 30% also are women. And therefore, we have a specific unit specifically dedicated to women's affairs. So we don't think any activists out there would accuse the TRC of being gender biased. We have done our bit. Now, we know we have that slogan that never again. The never again can only be achieved if the people of this country have that change of mindset. If the people of this country are ready to change the mindset and understand that whatever happens to them is happening because they accept it, however wrong it may be. So the TRC's contribution towards educating or assisting the people have that change of mindset was done in some way by helping or assisting the youths that are here and are studying in various institutions, giving them the opportunity to go to their classes unhindered. In the process, we have got 8 students, law students, who had gone through the bar, and we believe that's a great achievement. Others in the law school are going on, and the most we could do in that case, in their cases, is to give them the time off to go to classes and come to work when they do not have lessons in place. Time has been taken. We've been here for a very long time. We need to close up and things up. But we cannot end it without saying special thank you to the drivers who have been busy doing all the runs. They've done a lot, and we want to thank the institutions that they came from. That is GPA, GAMTEL, the Ministry of Justice, and GR? Yeah, the judiciary, okay. I'm sorry, I'll end this with on a slightly sad, on a sad note, because during the course of the Trrc life cycle, we lost one very hardworking staff, somebody whose demise touched the hearts of all staff within the Trrc, and that was Ibu Wage. I want to ask the gathering to please remember him in your silent prayers, and we wish him a place in Jannah. No, somebody is telling me, you know, this woman, the problem. She's saying I cannot end on a sad note. So I have to give something. You see, the Trrc Secretariat has been operating as a team, not a group. That is what we started with. Somewhere in the middle of the proceedings, we had Serigne Fall, who was very generous to turn himself into the guru of the Trrc by giving her staff's hand in marriage to a staff of the research unit. And that is what opened the floodgates, incidentally. As we speak, we have 7 marriages that have been consummated, and there are 2 in the making. 3 in the making. So on that note, I thank you. I thank everybody for this.
Yeah, you've taken me by surprise on that one. Thank you very much indeed. Interpreters, I think I should spare you any interpretation of all these summaries. I mean, the ones that them have submitted written remarks. But we thank you very much indeed. You may have something on your own, and you may have a spokesman. If you have, I give you a minute or two to say if you want to say something, and then the sign language expert also. I don't know how he can communicate with us, but he may be able to also say thank you. He can stand up and then just use some sign language for the commission. Then we'll see what happens. But Mr. Mane and the interpreters, do you have anything to say?
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman.
No, not the summary.
From Chairman himself to the lead counsel and his able assistants, to the Human Resource Department, to every section of this TRRC, the Secretariat, and the media section, the security who were able to secure the place, and every section of the TRRC. On behalf of the interpreters, I extend our sincerest thanks to all of you. Had it not been for your help and your assistance, we would have found it very difficult to operate here. We make mistakes, and the lead counsel will lead us and say, you know, just to make sure, more for the, just to make, just to make sure that we tell the people what is coming out. And it has really, really been enjoyable for us and fun for us too. But the TRRC, I can also say, is one of the most important jobs I have ever done in my life, because this TRRC has brought out, as one mentioned here, the dark days of Gambian history. It has really been really dark in those days, because some people said it here. In the morning when you're going to work, you'll be thinking whether you'll be coming back home that day. If you go to work, you will always be in your office with fear. So Allah has helped us to come out of that era. So the TRRC is one of the best, I can say, it's an institution, because the TRRC has taught people a lot of things. Because before the TRRC, the things that were revealed here, some people were denying it, and even me myself, I knew that atrocities were committed, but I didn't know. It was so bad. It was so atrocious that I can say that there's no end to whatever these people were doing. So I will not take people's time long. I am extending my sincerest thanks to everybody, every section of the TRRC, because this thing is an eye-opener to Gambians. And let's forgive. I know it will be very difficult to forget, but let's try and forgive. Let's try and reconcile. Let's try and come back together. We have nowhere but the Gambia. The Gambia is our only hope. It is our only home. So if we come together and try to work together, we will be able to achieve. And what we will achieve is what is going to take this country forward. And if we don't come together to be one, well, I think it will be very difficult to take this country forward. There has been many denials and so on, but let's forget all that and come together as one. This country is what we have, so let's try and develop this country. On that note, I thank everybody. I thank all who has participated, or everybody who has tried something in one way or the other. On that note, I say thank you all. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mane, on behalf of the interpreters. Can the sign language expert come in the middle, please? He's standing and going to say thank you. Come around and say something. Yeah. No, they can't tell us. Somebody would have. No, come in the middle. We can see you. Yeah, okay. Fine, go ahead. There's a crowd and tell them. Say thank you in your own way. Yeah, talk also.
But he's not, okay, the video. I'll make sure that
Go ahead. Yeah.
Now I'm illiterate.
Thank you very much, indeed. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I declare the public hearings of the TRRC closed. Meeting is adjourned.